Welcome to the Mostly Pod Out at Night. Mostly, I am Graveyard, joined by my co-host Salem.
Hello.
This is episode 28 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. We'll go with this kind of a director theme for this month, and this director theme is M. Night Shyamalan. So we are preparing for his new movie, Knock at the Cabin, by going back and revisiting all the horror movie works of M. Night Shyamalan and determining, do they still hold up? Do you think he can come back with good movies? Let's go ahead and discuss those, shall we? So for tonight's episode, we are going with Sixth Sense, Signs, The Village. And while he didn't direct Devil, he did produce it and write it. So we'll go chronologically, as we always do, giving a quick little recap, and we'll be discussing our highlights, low points, first thoughts if we remember when we first saw these movies, and then we'll discuss the twists. And that'll start probably going to our ranting of some of these movies at that point. And out of 10 for this week, we are doing, I can say number of brain cells retained or number of brain cells lost out of 10, because some of these movies are quite dumb and they make you dumber. So we'll go into the first one, which is The Sixth Sense. All right. So movie starts off with, all these take place essentially in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania area, because M. Night is from there.
It's either Philadelphia or the area is described by how far away from Philadelphia it is.
45 miles from it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So we start off with Bruce Willis coming home with his wife, quite drunk from winning an award for being a child psychologist.
The best child psychologist.
Yes. How much do you think that frame cost? Do you think it's like $60? Do you think maybe a couple hundred? Yeah, that was an interesting conversation piece. So the wife goes into the basement and seems really confused by the wine selection they have in their wine cellar. Because they were drunk from the award ceremony, they're going to get even more drunk. I mean, that's fair. They're already home, so that's playing it safe. Gotta applaud them for that. And they start getting down heavy. They go upstairs, and they're getting ready, and she realizes that the window was second, third floor of their apartment or house, even.
It's like a
townhome.
What do you call them? Bungalows in the city.
Yeah, like 5 feet wide, but like 4 stories tall.
Correct. Yeah, it was like one of those.
Like a room per floor. And the window's broken in there, and then we see a very, very skinny Donnie Wahlberg in his undies.
Yeah, and one of his better roles, I would say.
Yeah, his probably best role.
No, he's done some good stuff.
And he's talking about he's disturbed and asking Bruce Willis if he remembers him, and he has a hard time placing him. And he finally realizes who it is, and he goes to try to help him figure out what's going on. He grabs a gun, shoots Bruce Willis, and the camera starts panning away from him, and then he shoots himself in the head. They don't show it, and then it's just kind of a quick fade to black. And then what's the very first next thing that happened is
it literally says next fall.
The next fall, yeah.
Underneath the screen, and then it's Bruce Willis watching
on the bench,
watching the kid leave his house, right?
Yeah. He watches Haley Joel Osment, and he has his notebook and starts writing things down as he's creepily surveying his next patient.
Well, yes. If he was anything but a child psychologist monitoring child behavior, yes, it would be extremely creepy.
Yeah, and it kind of just shows Haley Joel Osment, was it his first role or his breakout role? Definitely his breakout role.
Honestly, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he did anything before this. Maybe he did like commercials or something. I don't know. But this is definitely the role where he broke out. Yeah, clearly.
And I think he starts following him from quite a distance he goes into the church.
Yes.
He's playing with really complex army men. I don't remember having army men that detailed.
Well, they're the ones that you paint.
Yeah, that's fair. And he's just talking about him and how things are going, and introduces himself. And he speaks a little Latin to him. He's clearly afraid of something. And as he's leaving, he steals a Jesus statue. This kind of just goes from there, right? Next scene. Why am I blanking out on this?
Well, I mean, yeah, basically it's showing that he's awkward, like it shows him like going to school, and like the kid that, I think he's like paying him to like, show up to his house and pick him up to make his mom not worry about him. But after they get out of eye shot of the mom, he's like, yeah, whatever.
Was that good?
Yeah, see you later, loser. Like he obviously like does not like him, but doing it for the sake of his mom. And it just shows him how awkward he is in school.
He gets locked. He gets locked in. No, that's not the cover. That's later on. So yeah, I mean, he essentially he's bullied. He's essentially be called a freak. His mom is a very young Toni Collette, which I don't think I realized for a very long time it was her, because I don't think it looks like her.
Well, because I haven't seen this movie since it came out, and obviously I know who Toni Collette is now, but I didn't know who she was then. So I didn't recognize her at all at that time. But watching it again, I was like, oh wow, I totally forgot that she was in this.
And she has a Jersey accent, which throws it off a lot too, I would say.
Well, I mean, yeah.
But essentially, the Bruce Willis character's name is Malcolm. Cole is Haley Joel Osment's character. Malcolm realizes that he failed. Donnie Wahlberg's character he's hoping to make this his last case. And his wife is very, very distant with him, to say the least.
It's basically implied that since that issue happened, that he's been very distant with her, and he's been focusing on his work too much.
Yes. So, she keeps locking he uses the wine cellar as his makeshift office. She keeps locking it, and she just won't talk to him. They're at ends, let's say the least. So anyway, that's going on, and Cole gets invited to a kid's birthday party, and his mom's there, and it's like every parent there. I've been to those birthday parties. They're not very fun. They call him a freak, and my dad made me invite him here, blah, 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 blah. And we see a red balloon go up the stairwell into an attic, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I would say the cinematography for that shot was pretty cool. I did like it.
Yeah. So
the other thing is those parties where like all the kids get invited. Like, I don't remember those. I don't think I ever got invited to one of those.
It's more of especially a thing now. I can tell you that right now with my kids, that is a thing. That you have to invite everyone in your class.
Yeah, see, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, birthday parties, we always had just like a little family gathering. I didn't invite I don't ever remember inviting other children to my birthday or going to birthdays of other people.
Right. But anyway, the kids just play a joke on him, lock him in this attic, and he starts just screaming like he's getting tortured because he heard whispering in there. Right, so we're getting hints of things kind of here and there. Like there's a scene with him in the kitchen. His mom leaves the room. He's eating breakfast, comes back, and every drawer's open. He's like, I was just looking for Pop-Tarts. Mom's like, all right, you gotta stop doing this. This is hard on me. My kid is a freak.
Hey, she never said that.
Well, she clearly thinks it.
Well, she's just upset because she knows something's going on that he's not telling her.
Yeah. And like I said, mentioned the red balloon, the doorknob. There's a lot of red. Red's very used minimally, but the red signifies stuff coming up in this. But anyway, he passes out. The mom gets concerned, gets taken to the hospital, where Malcolm comes in here, and the poor kid had like the worst blanket at the hospital I've ever seen. Couldn't even cover his feet. And then we get the infamous line from this entire movie. Talking Cole's saying, I'm going to tell you my secret. Do you want to know my secret? Yes. And I see dead people. What do you mean? Cemeteries, bodies? No, like ghosts. They're all around. Right? And they don't, they're unaware that they're dead. They're reaching out to him. He doesn't know why. But yeah, so I'd say Malcolm thinks he's a little concerned about this, and he starts listening to his audio tape with Donnie Wahlberg's character, and
Vincent Gray.
Vincent, yes. And as he was turning the knob up on the tape recorder to 10, I'm like, I could barely hear it on my TV. I'm like, I'm also turning it up while watching it. He realizes he's begging for help in Spanish, and realizes that that's the same thing, or Latin, that he was essentially implied that he was seeing ghosts as well as Cole. So it maybe implied that when he died, the ghosts then started going to Cole for help. That'd be my guess.
Yeah. What do they call that?
EVP?
Yeah.
Electronic voice phenomenon?
Yeah. Where you can, like, supposedly, if you turn up, like, the static loud enough, and there's a ghost around, you can supposedly hear it. That's exactly what it was.
Yep, EVP. So Malcolm suggests to Cole, like, hey, they're coming to you for a reason. Try talking to them and helping them out. Maybe they'll then go away. He's like, okay, I think I can do that. And he starts doing it. He has a red tent that he makes out of clothespins. And one night he sees a girl throwing up in there. And he's rightfully screamed out of there. But then he realized,
okay, she's a little girl, man. Come on.
Well,
scream and run away. It's just a little girl throwing up. What's scary about that?
I can't handle vomit. I'd scream and throw up too.
I mean, I wouldn't scream. I might go gross, but I'm not going to scream and run away.
That's fair. So anyway, he realizes that he goes back and starts. So, what do you have to tell me? And the kind of just fades. And then he's on the bus with Malcolm driving really far outside Philadelphia, to a wake where he essentially finds out that there's a videotape of the girl because the mom was poisoning her to keep her sick. Right. And the videotape proves it, and the dad watches it during the wake, which is really, really odd.
Well, okay. Well, it's also an old school wake. There's old school wakes used to be in your house.
Correct.
Like everybody would come over to your house and the wake would be there.
And tons of food.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the food was always a part of it, but I mean, now traditionally you do it in a funeral home. But back, in the old days, it was always you do it at your house. Funeral homes are a relatively modern thing, so it was like an old school way.
The
I guess it makes sense because the evidence is there, and it wouldn't make sense for them to leave the funeral home, go to the home, and then come back.
Yeah. Dad watches it, and they realize that she was also poisoning her little sister, who's starting to get sick too. The mom's wearing a red dress, which is weird at a wake. Everyone else is wearing black. She's wearing red. But like I said, that color is important to this movie.
I think it's important to all of his movies, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Especially the first ones we're watching.
Yeah.
Essentially, the dad sees it. He's like, I knew you've been doing this. How could you do this? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he gets somehow plays King Arthur in a play. Who's the director is Stuttering Stanley, right? The teacher.
That teacher. There was a scene earlier where the teacher was asking, "Oh, what did this building used to be for?" And then Cole was like, "Oh, they used to hang people here," and he's like, "Oh no, they didn't. I don't know where you heard that from. This was a courthouse." And then he was like, basically that Cole was upset that he was staring at him, so he's like, "Stop staring at me." And he wouldn't stop staring at him. And so then apparently one of the ghosts knew the teacher and used to make fun of him as Stuttering Stanley. So he kept repeating that. So the teacher got really pissed off at him. That's where that came up really. Yeah.
And luckily we only get like a minute of a child's play in this movie. I'm glad we only got the ending of it. So, Malcolm's there and he's talking about like, they're helping me. And he tells Malcolm's like, I know how to reach your wife. Talk to her while she's sleeping. Because there's another scene of the wife at the pawn store trying to give out the world's most expensive ring to some couple that didn't clearly want it and pressure him into buy it. And she starts to...
The couple didn't want it. The woman wanted it. The guy didn't.
Yeah.
It's a very stereotypical way of looking at
Right. But they went to a pawn shop anyway. So, I mean, it should be cheaper.
it. Well, it's an antique store. Antique is different from pawn.
Yeah. But she started moving furniture, and her, I guess, coworker there is clearly hitting on her, and they're about to kiss, and the window smashes, and you see Malcolm walking away. So he realizes that this is ending. And he comes back to his house after talking to Cole and sees the guy leave. Then he enters the house, and then we cut back to Cole, who they're stuck in traffic, and there's a bike accident, and then he tells his secret to his mom, who didn't believe him at first. Like, the person died. Where is she? Outside my window. And, telling her what happened. And then, grandma comes and talks to me, and she tells the secret of, like, what the mom asked at the grave. And, do I make you proud? The answer is every day. So the mom finally realizes that he's special and has this ability.
He's a medium.
He's a medium, yeah. Long Island medium. No. So, Malcolm finally comes home in his sleep. She's watching their wedding tape, and he starts talking to her, say, I miss you too. And she drops the wedding ring, his wedding ring, from her hand. He realizes that it's not on his hand, and then we have all the flashbacks of, dead people only see what they want to see. So the reason why he couldn't get into his basement is not because the door is locked, is because there was a table in front of it. And he was just seeing all the stuff. And the reason why there was no interaction was because he was already dead. And so we never see him interacting with anyone the entire movie other than Cole. Then he flashes back to not hear a shot, and then ends with him showing being dead in there, and then him realizing, let's go to sleep, it'll be all okay in the morning, and then fade to white, end the movie.
Right. Now I was, because obviously I've seen this before.
Yes.
This is only the second time I watched it, because the first time I watched it was pretty good, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, if I know this twist, this movie is not going to be good the second time, right? And I just kind of got that in my head, and I just avoided it ever since. I've been kind of sort of meaning to watch it again, but I never got around to it. I didn't want to ruin it. So this is actually the first time I've watched it since
1999.
Yeah, since 1999, since it came out. I watched it, and it was interesting because I was really watching to see, like if there's any kind of screw ups, and there really, really isn't. I mean, it's pretty good. Like whenever he sits in a chair, he doesn't move the chair. He doesn't like nothing. Nothing gets moved around. He just like sits, and nothing around him reacts. The only time it does is when Cole is in the hospital bed. That scene where he says, "I see dead people."
Yeah.
He sits down in that stool next to him, and he does roll the stool over to him.
Right.
That's the only time he actually interacts with his environment. Every other time is like he's just, moving around what's already there. He's not actually changing.
Well, he does smash the window at the shop.
Well, yeah, but that's a ghost anger thing, right?
Right.
That's not a surprise. I'm just saying, like, when he sits in the chair, whenever he talks and meets with Cole, he doesn't move the chair ever.
Yeah. So, I mean, what was your first thought with this? Was like, oh, this is great, right? It's very twisty, and it wasn't a twist that you necessarily saw coming. I said we'll get more to the twist later, but overall, did you think like, okay, I have to watch for M. Night Shyamalan movies going forward?
Well, the very first time I watched it, yeah. I mean, I was very impressed. I thought it was very cool because it's, I mean, you watch it, even watching it the second time. I mean, the movie just kind of flies by. I mean, it's like it's like an hour and 45 minutes, but it doesn't feel like it. I mean, there's stuff happening the whole time. I mean, it's a pretty solid story. I mean, there's every scene has a purpose. Everything, like I said, the cinematography is good. I mean, the way that it's presented, it's kind of like a gritty, presentation where it feels kind of dark, and it always feels like ominous. Like it always feels like the camera's maybe a little bit too far away sometimes to try to give you that isolation feeling,
Yeah.
I think it's really done well, and it's yeah. I mean, it's so when first time I watched it, I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely going to be watching everything that he makes from now on.
Oh yeah.
That changed almost immediately. But at the time when I watched this, I was like, oh, yeah, this is great. Moving forward, this is going to be fantastic. We got a new person making great movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at that time, yes, I was very much excited.
Yeah. I mean, I saw this. I'm pretty sure I saw this in theaters. And because it's one of those things, like, if you knew the twist going ahead of time, you might ruin it. But I've watched it more than once. This is not, I don't know how many times I've watched this, but I mean, it's a good rewatch. And knowing the twist and you rewatch it, then you start looking for these clues, which is a sign of a good movie, that you start to realize all these pieces do fall in the line. So I think it's definitely something you have to watch more than once to fully gather every piece of information. But yeah, I was excited. I'm like, all right, we have a good suspense horror movie. You know, that I was excited for M. Night Shyamalan at this point in time too. Highlights, you know, cinematography, as you said, the acting, especially from Haley Joel Osment, was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I as a general rule do not like child actors.
Yes.
Just because at like 95% of the time they try to like rely on them and they cannot handle the thing that they're trying to like hinge the whatever on, you know, the emotion on.
Yeah.
They just can't sell it. And I think like Haley Joel Osment, at least in this movie, is one of the very, very few that does. He kind of makes every other child actor look bad because he does this so well. And that's why I get angry when other children do it so badly. Is because it's like, no, there are instances. Look at this one right here. This instance, he did a fantastic job. Like, why can't every other kid do that?
He carried the movie.
Oh, he definitely
He absolutely did. Yeah, phenomenal. Like, and there's big names in here too that you just didn't realize it at that point in time. I said without getting we have the spot for the twist. Any low points though for the movie for you?
Low points. When I was watching it, I was kind of looking out for it. I think the low point would be when he's talking to her in her sleep. That conversation is really stupid. Just the way that she responds, it's like she's just having a normal conversation with him, though her eyes are closed. Like I did not buy for 1 second that she was asleep.
I don't know, because the wife, she's not very coherent when she wakes me up in the middle of the night and tries to tell me something. She doesn't remember the conversation. But yeah, I mean, that goes into the whole idea of ghosts and stuff like that. Like, I understand why he's saying that she's just in, like, not full on asleep, but like the first stage of REM, maybe. But maybe that's a way he's able to help communicate. There's theories about all that crap with ghosts, right?
No, I'm not upset about them communicating in the sleep. That part is fine. I just didn't like the acting in that scene.
Oh.
I did not buy that she was asleep for a second. She did not seem asleep. She seemed like she was just having a normal conversation with her eyes closed.
That's fair. I can get on board with that as a low point. And he does, I guess, he seems to pan and stay focused on things for too long. And a lot of it is to people's back of their heads.
Well, he does that on purpose. Is like when he's trying to focus on something on a scene, he'll like purposely focus on something else.
Yeah.
And then like kind of like basically make you numb to that one thing that he's focusing on. So you focus on everything around it.
He does this a lot, especially in these movies that we watched for this week. I noticed that trend because I never watched these this close in order.
Yeah. Well, again, it's like one of the things that he does. And again, I don't remember his name, but there's like one cinematographer that he works with that it does a really good job. And you can usually tell when he's working with him because the cinematography is done well. And like this movie, it definitely is there. There's some of the other movies that look good, like Unbreakable looks good.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's the same guy. Some of these other movies did not. And that's why they don't feel the same. Like some of them just straight up feel like amateurish. I mean, they really feel like it's like a film student movie.
And I'd say he carries this on in the TV show Servant, which is by M. Night as well. And Philly. And the same styles are still there, I would say.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a signature thing. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
That's something you can just turn off, I don't think.
Yeah. All right. So the twist.
Uh-huh.
This is probably going to be the least ranty we get on the twist.
Right. Well, this one, it really has two, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first one is that the kid sees dead people.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that part was like known before you even watched the movie.
That's definitely in the trailers.
Right. I was going to say, like you knew that twist before you go into the movie. Again, when you watch the movie at first, they don't like just go into it saying he can see dead people. Like you have to build up to that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's hints to that, but you really don't know it for sure until after he says it. And then you actually see the ghosts that he sees.
Correct. And I would say as soon as I noticed that too, as soon as he said that, it stopped being a Bruce Willis movie and became a Haley Joel Osment movie. Like the character's perspective twisted more so to his character.
Right. Yeah. It hard focused on him until his story was done. And then it refocused back on Bruce Willis again.
Right.
It's like, so yeah, after that happened, it's like, yeah, Bruce Willis kind of like says goodbye to him. Like he's leaving the movie. I mean, that's what it feels like. And then, and then Haley Joel Osment has his closing moments with his mother, and then he's out of the movie. And then it goes back to Bruce Willis, and then he gets to finish out his own part.
Full circle. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, we don't see any ghostly activity until that line. Like we see things, but we don't see the ghosts.
Right. Right. Yeah. We know he's scared of something. We know there's something going on. Like, right. I mean, if you really, noodle it out, you might figure out, okay, he's probably getting this information from something or somewhere around him. Right.
Yeah.
But again, you don't see that stuff actually happening until after he says it to Bruce Willis. And then of course the big twist after that is that Bruce Willis is a ghost.
Correct.
So the entire movie, he's been a ghost
shot
the whole time. Well, yeah, the very first scene he's alive, but the rest of the movie and all the interaction with Cole, he's been a ghost.
Correct.
Which again is interesting. You watch it the first time, like I didn't see it coming at all.
No, and I don't think. I mean, there was definitely hints, and well, I think the third one on this list, I'll say there's no flat out lies to us.
Yeah, I know. The third one definitely does. I mean, I was going to bring that up. I mean, literally in the first scene of the movie, it lies to you.
Correct.
We'll
get to that.
Lie. Okay, we'll get that later. But this one, it doesn't explicitly lie to you. Again, if you watch it after knowing the twist, you can, pick out, like I said, he doesn't move chairs when he sits in them. Like usually you pull the chair out or sit in it or whatever, or move stuff around in a desk or whatever. Any of that stuff. He doesn't do any of that. He doesn't change his surroundings at all. The only time he ever does is, like I said, when he sits down in that tool and wheels it over to him. That's the only time he ever interacts with the environment around him.
Right. And when we see Bruce Willis's character interacting, like he comes home one day from school, but he's sitting there across from his mom, and we just assumed, we filled it in their head that they're having a conversation about Cole. But on the rewatch, you realize he literally just pops in like every so often into Cole's life. It's only at certain points. Right.
And that's the thing is, and that's why he says a couple of times, like while they're doing stuff, like don't leave, like don't, but he means like, he can't say don't disappear because then you obviously it'll give it away. But he says don't leave. And he's like, well, I'm not going anywhere. But that's why he says that, is because he probably pops in and out.
Correct.
But yeah. And like Toni Collette, his mom does not interact with him at all. And you assume that she does, but she doesn't.
And all the people walk around him at the wake. Yeah. We see him supposedly meeting his wife for dinner. He goes to reach for it, but she just takes it. So we don't see him interacting with anything other than sitting.
Right. Yeah. And like the wife doesn't look at him. Like she's looking out in the distance. But I mean, you can tell even in the way that she's sitting that she's not looking at him. She's looking through him, out like a different way. Just kind of distracted. And she goes like, the one thing that she says is like happy anniversary.
Right.
And she leaves. But I mean, that's again, now that we know the twist, she's just saying that because she was trying to celebrate their anniversary with him not there.
Correct. Now I don't think in any way, shape, or form the twist ruins the movie. I think it's as we discussed, highlight is definitely this. Like it I'd say for a very long time a twist hasn't come along like that in a long time in these movies, right?
That's fair. I mean, yeah, not one that was this meaningful that I did not see coming.
Right. Usually,
Right.
we watch enough movies that we can generally tell kind of the twist of what's coming up.
Right.
Right. It's just the nature of things. But I mean, this really, as people aspired to make twists as good as M. Night from this because of this movie.
Yeah. What was that werewolf movie? Werewolf Within something.
Yeah.
With the AT&T girl in it.
Yeah. Werewolf Within.
Yeah. That one had a twist I didn't see coming.
No. But
that was so rare. The last one. It's rare when it happens. Yeah.
Correct. I'd say Identity didn't have a twist we saw coming either.
No, I didn't see that twist coming. No.
But do you think, knowing, this is only your second time watching it, do you think knowing the twist, as you were concerned, would ruin the movie going on the rewatch?
Well, yeah, I was concerned. That's why I never rewatched it. I mean, I was very concerned that it would ruin the movie, but having finally rewatched it again, I can say it doesn't. It really doesn't.
No.
It's really just as interesting to watch. Again, watching it like over and over again, I don't know about that, but I mean, you could definitely watch it a second time, and again, even watching it the second time, the movie kind of speeds by because it's well done. I mean, everything's kind of pieced together well enough to where it's kind of like moving along the whole time.
And do you feel like since you know M. Night's movies now, that you're able to catch these plot points easier on the rewatch?
Well, yeah. With his movies, yeah, you always got to be looking for something because there's always a twist. It's like every movie he has. There's never a movie that he has that doesn't have one. And I imagine eventually he will, and that will be the twist, right?
Yes. Well, The Last Airbender, the twist was he doesn't know how to make The Last
Airbender. I've never seen it. I have no desire to see it. But again, I never watched The Last Airbender, the show, so again, I don't want to watch that and be like, it wasn't that bad. But again, I don't have anything to reference it to. I know that the fans of the show hated it, and I don't want to.
Absolutely.
And I've heard it's a good show. Eventually get to it. It's on a long list, but
no, like I said, this is a masterfully crafted movie. Twist didn't insult you in any way, shape, or form.
No.
And if you on the rewatches, I probably watched this, I don't know, maybe a dozen times, if that.
Right.
And now we call it the classic M. Night twist.
Right.
So let's get on to our rating, unless you have anything else to talk about on the twist on this.
No.
Okay. So number of brain cells lost. Now we should be 0 to 10, but it will still keep 0 to 10. Out of 10 being the best movie possible. I don't know. I mean, this is pretty high up there. I would have to go to a 9, honestly. It's so masterfully done, beautifully shot, and it doesn't insult you with its twist. Like some people try to, as we discussed, people purposely leave out plot points to go, haha, we fooled you. I think it was done perfectly execution-wise. What about you?
I think it's a very well done movie. I liked it a lot. I would probably give it an 8.
An 8?
So yeah, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Yeah, but again, I'd say that's the first time I watched it. I might go higher. You know what I mean? Like the very first time I watched it, I was like, wow, that's great. But having watched it the second time, just kind of watching all the points and stuff like that, still really good. I mean, again, this is still above my rewatching threshold. Yeah, still really good, but I don't know if I would go that high. So I'll say
okay. That's fair. That's perfectly fair. All right, so then you will lead us through his next movie wasn't Signs, but his next horror movie was Signs.
Right.
I'm pretty sure Unbreakable was next, but that's not horror.
Right. No, because again, I watched The Sixth Sense and then I watched Unbreakable, and I loved both of them.
Oh, Unbreakable is amazing.
Right. I would say I like Unbreakable better than The Sixth Sense. But then and then I was like, Signs, like, oh, this is gonna be good, right?
Yep.
Because this is before Mel Gibson had his breakdowns. So Mel Gibson was still in good standing at this point in time. I liked Mel Gibson. I've always liked Mel Gibson because of the whole Mad Max, connection.
And Lethal Weapon, probably.
I mean, Lethal Weapon is okay. Don't get me wrong, but Mad Max is definitely. I mean, it's one of my top 5 franchises of all time. I love those movies. So of course you have to love Mel Gibson because he's the character, right?
Right. And we get introduced to, River Phoenix's younger brother. I don't think I remember Joaquin Phoenix in anything before Signs.
Gladiator.
I paid attention to. Was it?
Gladiator.
I guess that.
I mean, that's a pretty big movie, dude. He was like one of the main stars in Gladiator, which was a huge movie. A Ridley Scott directed huge movie.
That begs the question: did I see Signs first or Gladiator?
I mean,
probably Signs.
I mean, I'm not saying that you knew of him before that. I'm just saying like he was a known quantity before this movie. Because Gladiator was 2000. I think Signs was 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, this was probably one of the things he did right after Gladiator. But yeah, Gladiator. I think Gladiator was the first thing that I knew him from.
Yeah.
Or at least the first thing that I could recognize him from.
That's fair. And this also had Macaulay Culkin's younger brother,
Rory,
and then Rory, who was in Scream 5, Scream 4, and then Abigail, whatever her last name is,
Abigail Breslin.
Little Miss Sunshine, Zombieland.
Yep. This is where she got her start too.
Yep.
I don't even know how old was she in this movie, like 6.
Yeah, about 6.
Yeah, she was very, very young. Anyway, so we got a star-studded cast here. We got Mel Gibson, Joaquin Phoenix, Rory Culkin, and Abigail Breslin is the family, right?
Yep.
Mel Gibson plays a priest. At this stage, he has lost his faith. I'm just gonna say what happened right now because we get it piecemeal through the rest of the story.
Very piecemeal.
But I'm not going to go back and forth and try to remember when this stuff happened. So I'm just going to say what happened now. Okay, so what happened is that he was happily married because apparently he's not a Catholic priest. He's some other form of Catholic or form of Christian. He still wore the Catholic priest collar, the black shirt with the white collar.
Yes.
But he wasn't Catholic, obviously, because he's married and had children. So whatever. He's one of those other denominations. I don't think they ever say what it is.
No.
But he's apparently one of those other denominations. Anyway, so he was married. He had 2 kids. They were like in love and, blah, blah. Perfect, family lives at a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere.
45 miles outside Philadelphia.
Correct. So apparently his wife liked to go for walks before dinner. And she was out having a walk before dinner and M. Night Shyamalan playing a character as he does in every one of his movies. As
he does cameo.
Yeah, he cameos in every one of his movies, usually as some form of doctor, but not always.
Yeah.
So he is a veterinarian and he was like working a late night. He wasn't drunk, but he had worked a very, very late night and he fell asleep at the wheel. And apparently his truck pinned his wife to a tree to the point where if they pulled the truck away, she would die immediately. Like the truck was like holding all her guts in, but she was dying. It was like she was just coherent. So they called him to the scene so she could like spend her last minutes with him.
Right.
So basically what happens is because of that, it's a horrible thing, right? Because of that, he loses his faith and he leaves the church. So it's been 6 months since then. So he has lost his faith. He's no longer a priest and he's trying to like find his purpose in life. And his brother moves in with him to kind of help support him or the family or whatever.
He lives above the garage.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, normal farmhouses, they have like a coach house. Yeah. So whatever. So it's like that. It's like the room above the garage kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, his brother is Joaquin Phoenix. Mel Gibson plays the priest. And then the 2 kids are obviously, his children. So that's basically the kind of backstory of this. Again, we get this piecemeal over the movie, but I'm just going to lay it out in the front because I don't want to remember when it happened and whatever.
Yeah.
So basically, they're trying to live their life normally. They basically wake up in the morning and there's dogs barking and they can't find their kids. And then they hear a kid screaming. So then they, Mel Gibson and his brother run out there to see what's going on. And they find out that they have crop circles in their cornfields.
Yes.
So they're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. The police come out and they're like, yeah, we did some research. Like, yeah, people can do this overnight.
2 guys with a board and rope.
And ropes, which is correct. That's how they've been doing it over time. There's nothing to worry about. So they look on the news. There's reports of this happening all over the world. All of these crop circles just appeared, all in one night. And so it like kind of pointing to like, oh, there's more to this, right?
It'd take a large number of people to be very coordinated to do all of that.
Right. So they're kind of like, okay, we're trying to like, get over this, get back to normal. So they like, go into town. They go into town and like people are acting goofy because, they're seeing, people are seeing stuff, like lights and like people sneaking around throughout the world. And so it's getting the world kind of unnerved. But Mel Gibson doesn't want anybody watching the TV because, he's like, it's getting kind of crazy. I don't want you guys watching TV because everybody's getting crazy. I don't want you guys getting crazy too. So essentially his one dog, kind of gets crazy and tries to go after his kids.
Yeah.
He's got two dogs, two German Shepherds. Anyway, so the dog gets crazy and tries to go after the kid. The other kid has to kill it. It kind of the way that they talked about it is like, oh, he jumped on me and fell on me or something like that. I think they were just trying to say that the kid didn't do it on purpose, to kind of just, I guess, so you don't think badly of him or so. I don't know. But anyway, so he kills the dog. But the dog was obviously like upset and trying to attack him. So they take the other dog and they tie it behind the garage. At a later point, that dog kind of sort of turns on Mel Gibson too. So he keeps it tied up in the back, but something is obviously going on, right?
Yeah.
And so Mel Gibson, they see that they go to bed that night and they basically wake up because they see somebody on the roof of like the coach house.
Yeah.
So they go out there and they're like, they try to like, him and his brother like try to run around the house to try to like meet him on the other side. And they go onto the other side and they can hear him on the roof, but they can't see him. So they're like, the guy must have been like super fast and they jumped way up there, immediately. So they call the police and she's like, well, there's Olympic athletes that can do that kind of stuff.
Female Olympic.
Yeah, female Scandinavian Olympians that can do that. And so they're like, well, I don't think a female Scandinavian Olympian is out here. Somebody's messing around. So yeah, they're trying to figure out what's going on. And eventually, when they do go to town and they start hearing more and more stuff, I think the one kid gets a book about aliens.
Right.
And they start, reading about this stuff. And eventually it gets weird enough where Mel Gibson that night, he goes out to feed the dog because the dog's still tied up in the back. And he sees something in the corn. So he goes out there with a flashlight. And after, running around back and forth, he actually sees a like leg move back into the corn. So at this point, he runs back to the house and he's like, okay, turn the TV on, because he's like, something is going on. So then when you turn the TV on and then they're talking about all these cities all over the world, see these lights floating above them, so it looks like aliens, right?
Yep.
The next morning, they can't see them anymore. But there's people saying that they're still there. They're just invisible. Because they're talking about how like this bird flew into it and then like flew straight to like, broke his neck flying into this thing and then flied straight down, showing that they're still there. They're just invisible. So at this point, like everybody's getting like conspiracy theory level, they're reading this, alien book and they're talking about like, why are they here? They're either hats. Here to, they're wearing aluminum foil hats and stuff. And they're like, well, they're either here to like share their technology with us or they're here to, conquer us.
Yeah.
And so, at this point, they're trying to figure out what's going on. The reports of things happening are rising. Like there's actually like videos of these aliens like that show up. I think the ones in like Brazil at a kid's birthday party and stuff like that. So it looks like things are ramping up. So they decide to, they're gonna either, I think,
willing to leave the house or stay.
Yeah, they're deciding if they're gonna leave the house or stay, and then somebody calls, and it turns out to be Ray, who's M. Night Shyamalan, who's the guy who hit his wife with the truck.
Yes.
And he hangs up, but he knows it's him, so he goes to his house to check on him. And he finds him in his truck, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to the lake. That people are saying that these things don't like water, so I'm going to go by the lake. I'm sorry for what I did."
I have a strong feeling about that.
Right? Yeah. He's like, I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry it took me so long to call. I'm sorry. Bye. Right?
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, by the way, don't go in the house because I locked one of them in the pantry."
Yep.
And he's like, so immediately he goes into the house, and he's like trying to find, like, there's something in the pantry. Like, you can see the shadows and hear it moving around. He's like trying to use the knife as a mirror to like see under the door, which does not work. He's like putting his head on the ground to like try to see in there, and he can't see anything. And in the process of doing this, anyway, the whatever's in there reaches his hand underneath the door, and of course it's got scaly skin, and it's got like long claws. So he reacts and he cuts two of his fingers off with the knife, but he leaves it locked in the pantry. And there's like a door or like a
howling in pain. Yeah.
yeah. But there's like a table like holding the door shut. So he like leaves and he goes back home. And then when he gets back home, he's like, okay, yeah, these things are totally real. I really saw one this time. We need to board up the house. So it says that they board up the house. They kind of like just lock all the bedroom doors because they know they don't have enough to board up all the windows up there. So they basically board up everything downstairs, and then kind of board the doors shut, and then just kind of wait to see what happens. And eventually, of course, the aliens attack the house.
After they have what they think is their last meal.
Oh yeah, the last meal. So like, yeah, everybody gets to pick what they want. So like, the little girl picks spaghetti, the kid picks French toast. The brother picks chicken teriyaki, and Mel Gibson picks a cheeseburger with bacon.
Lots of bacon.
Lots of bacon.
Yeah.
So he cooks everything, and they all sit down to eat, and they're all like, "Can we pray?" And he's all like, "No, we're not praying." And he gets all shitty about it.
And the kids tell him they hate him.
Yeah, and then the kids all hate him now, and everybody's crying. And then he tries to eat, and he can't eat either. And then they all have a big group hug.
Yeah.
And then apparently don't eat.
Yep.
I was like, that's a hell of a waste of food. Anyway, so they basically kind of like hunker down, like they're gonna wait this thing out. Aliens like start attacking, but they're like basically banging on the walls and stuff. They're not really doing anything major until they hear them basically break in upstairs to the point to where they've like breached the house, right?
Yep.
So they're like, okay, well, we got to go in the basement, right? Because there's no way they can get in. So we go in the basement. They lock the door, and then they come down, and they're like trying to get in the door. They're holding the door closed. The brother's looking for something to hold the door closed, and while he does that, he manages to break the only light bulb.
Yes, one singular light bulb.
Right, well, the one light bulb for the entire basement. He breaks it with a pickaxe or something?
Pickaxe, yeah.
It was a pickaxe, and then of course they find like enough flashlights for one for everybody. So they're all like just hanging out down there. But then the aliens, they basically figure out the aliens are banging on the door, but they're not really trying to break in. They're just trying to distract them. And they're like, "Ooh, what are they doing?" And that's when they figure out that there's like a coal chute that they have. And then the little boy was standing by the coal chute, and the alien reaches out and like touches the little boy. And they manage to like, block it off, and the alien doesn't actually get in, but the kid has an asthma attack. Right.
Right. Yep.
So because he's got asthma, and his medicine he doesn't have his medicine on him. So he's like having an asthma attack, and Mel Gibson's like trying to like, work him through it the psychological way.
Right.
And eventually they all fall asleep. They wake up, and the brother had found a box of light bulbs, so he replaced the one light bulb that he broke. And basically it seems like all the aliens are gone, because it's like morning now, right?
Yeah.
So they're listening, they don't hear anything. They're like, okay, I guess it's gone. So they open up the door, they go upstairs. They turn on the TV, and the TV says like, yeah, they're all gone.
Except for their wounded.
Yeah, they left their wounded behind, and they all escaped. And they don't say specifically what hurt them, but they say like a couple towns in the Middle East figure out what it was, and then they like told everybody else or something. I don't know. They don't really, but they don't specifically say what it does to stop them.
Right.
So they get to they're trying to like, figure out what happened. They're trying to clean up the house, and essentially he puts the boy on the couch and he goes to like bring the TV back in the front room because it was in the closet before.
Yeah.
I get it doesn't matter why. So they as he does that, he sees in the reflection of the TV that one of the aliens stayed behind and he picked up his kid and is holding him hostage. With like the little like needle that's coming out of his arm.
Yes.
And I guess where did they say that they spew some kind of poisonous gas? Was it on the TV that they said that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they said anyway. They said
because they said millions have died from poisonous gas.
Yeah, they said like these things secrete some kind of poisonous gas. So like it was a known thing at that point. I think we had just found out about it. Anyway, so he's like holding his hand above the kid's face with his like needle thing. And I'm.
Well, then we have then that's when we get all the flashbacks to what finally happened with his wife.
Right, yeah. So we get all the white flashbacks. And then essentially the brother comes walking in and Mel Gibson looks at him like swing away because his brother was like an amateur minor league baseball player who was really great at hitting, but he struck out so much that he wasn't good enough to be good. But when he did hit it, he really cranked it.
Right. And one of the things like when his wife was dying said, tell what was his name? Merrill
to swing away.
Yeah. So that's why we had to get that flashback to that.
Right. Yeah. So then Mel Gibson looks at him and says, swing away. And then, his like baseball bat that he got for like his best home run was hanging on the wall. So he grabs the bat, and he like hits the alien with the bat. And then what happened?
He knocks him. He knocks him on the ground against the TV because the daughter leaves glasses of water everywhere, so the water falls onto.
Right. So then they figure out that the water is hurting him, so then he starts smashing all the cups of water all over, and then essentially, like, I guess,
kills
it. They don't really show the end of that, but they do show him like down on the ground.
No, it's the alien that was missing fingers.
Oh yeah.
So it was the wounded one. And then it sprayed the gas into the son's face.
Right. And he was like, oh, it didn't get him because his lungs are closed. Like
his asthma saved him.
Okay, but his asthma attack happened like 12 hours ago.
Yes.
I'm sorry. The movie's over. We can get into the rants now.
Well, let's get into before we get into that's going to go into the twist, I think. What was your first thought though? I mean, this is after coming off of Sixth Sense and Unbreakable. I'm assuming you're excited for this movie.
I was very excited for this movie. I was like, this is going to be great. Right. And I watched it. And like, when I was watching it, I was like, okay, this movie, it's made well, right? I mean, it looks good. Like it actually did a decent job making it. Right.
Yes.
But something just felt off to me. Like it didn't feel like it made sense.
Correct.
And I was like, what is wrong? Like, I couldn't quite figure it out while I was watching it. But at the end of it, I was like, okay, it's over. I don't even know how to feel about this movie. And then like, as I had to sit and think about it for a while as to like what felt wrong to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually it did click and I know it's wrong. And I'll save that for the rant part of it. But yeah, something just felt off to me the first time that I watched this and I couldn't quite place it. Once I figured it out, I understood that there was just plain old logical things that did not make any sense. And that was what was wrong with it, I guess, is what I could say. There's too many things that were wrong with the movie and the way that things happened. That's what didn't sit right with me, and it was kind of upsetting because again, leading up to this, like he had two knocked out of the park awesome movies, and then this was really just put me off, and I really had to sit and think for a while to figure out what I really thought of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I was dating the wife, right? I'm pretty sure I took her, and my parents wanted to see this too, so we all went to see this. And at the time, X-Files had just come to a close, and I was like, okay, this wasn't a horrible movie. It wasn't as good. There's parts that scared the crap out of Scott. She doesn't really like mirrors or anything like that. So like the alien going, the reflection in the TV scared her. She didn't like that part. But I would say the only good acting part was the asthma scene in the basement. Like he was, yes, I know he's not supposed to be very emotional, Mel Gibson's character, but the asthma scene, that was probably the best acting in the entire movie, unfortunately.
I mean, Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix, they did a good job. I mean, they didn't do a poor job. I thought they well acted it. I think it's just they weren't the part that I didn't like. Like they're okay. I mean, yeah, I mean they're fine. I mean they're not. It's not like Oscar winning performance or anything, but they did good. I mean I have no complaints about their acting. Yeah, Rory Culkin and Abigail Breslin, they both did great too. I mean they both had their charm. It's like they didn't hinge too much on them.
Right.
The things that did hinge on them, they did very well. Again, it's like kind of the same thing in The Sixth Sense. Not as good as Haley Joel Osment, but again, it was done well. Again, it was two child actors who I, as a general rule, don't like, but these did a good job, and I have no complaints there. Acting, pretty much all around, I have no complaints.
So, would you say that's a highlight for you?
I don't know if it's a highlight.
Do you have highlights?
I guess okay, the highlight would be they really sold that family relationship.
Yeah.
Like it really did feel like, Mel Gibson was the dad, Joaquin Phoenix was the kind of, screw up, but good hearted brother.
Yeah.
And the kids really it really felt like they actually had a relationship. They actually had like real emotion in there. Like, the kids were, I hate you, cause that's what kids do, right? Kids do that stuff.
Yeah.
It felt real. It felt genuine. I thought that part of it was good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, family dynamic absolutely is there. And you and I are not of any really faith, but I could see why his character would lose faith.
Right.
Right. They're still it's 6 months. They're still in the grieving phase, quite honestly, too.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. Even if he didn't lose his faith or whatever, it still makes sense that he would take off time. I mean, especially if he's got kids and stuff. I mean, nothing wrong with that. I mean, I guess I did leave out the very end is where they show at the very end that he got his faith back and it went back to being a priest at the end. Simply because he asked God to save his kid and then the kid lived.
Right. Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, I have no problem with it. The religious factor did not bother me in this movie. It's not heavy-handed. It's not bad.
No.
Unlike some others that shall remain nameless for now. But it's good. It's like I said, all that stuff is good.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that for now.
I think we're entire low points into the twist of this movie.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, my low point would be the just huge gaps in logic and just giant plot holes, at least for me, would be the low point. I'll get into those in a minute.
Some of the dialogue was stupid. That's the low point. Especially them interviewing, talking to the cop about what they saw. Yes, maybe they're in shock, but she has to go, what was it, a midget or is he over 6 feet tall? Like the line of question to get anything out of it. And then, going, how do you know it's a man? There's women there that big. I'm like that whole questioning scene was very low point for me.
All right. Well, I mean, okay. She's a female sheriff. She's got to have something to work with. And she's trying to needle him with that. Are you being sexist because you don't think a woman could do that kind of thing?
It just, that conversation though, just didn't seem, it seemed off.
Like I said, I'm not saying that the acting was stellar. I'm just saying I have no problem with it.
I think they're attempting humor, and I don't think it paid off.
That's fair.
All right, let's get into this twist in this rant here, shall we?
Okay. Now, I talked about the one thing where he's like, "Oh, none of the gas got in his lungs because his lungs were closed. That is literally how they say it in the movie.
He didn't have his medicine. They got
if his lungs have been closed for 12 hours, poison gas is not your issue, man. The kid is dead. Okay, if lungs are closed and not taking in air for 12 hours, the kid is dead.
Been dead for 11 hours and 58 minutes.
Sense. The lungs are closed. That doesn't make any sense. You know, you just say, "Oh, we got him in time" or something. It doesn't matter. Why would you specifically say something that's stupid? That's not my biggest issue. My biggest issue is this. These aliens came to this planet to harvest people, right?
Yep.
It's not specifically said what they're harvesting them for. Are they harvesting them for food? Are they harvesting them for slave labor?
Yeah.
I mean, they're harvesting them for like DNA. Who knows? Nobody knows what they're doing. But they are coming here and they are grabbing people and taking them with them. They're not here just for murder parties. They're here to collect people and take them away, right? That is their purpose.
Yep.
They came here in spaceships. Those spaceships have cloaking technology.
Yep.
Now, they came here specifically for that purpose. I mean, from any other place in the universe, I don't care how far advanced you are, it will take resources to get here. Okay, so you spent resources to get here for this specific reason to harvest people.
You probably had scouts.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's fair. I mean, but people have talked about, you know, UFOs for years. I mean, that could easily be the scouts. But you spent resources to get here. This was for a singular purpose. Now, wouldn't you want that to be a successful raid? Right?
Yes.
Now, if you have the technology to build spaceships to get all the way here, you have the technology to build cloaking technology for those spaceships. How do you not have any weapons? How do you not have a net? How do you not have a stun baton? How do you not have anything that would help you in getting people, right? Because obviously you're grabbing them, taking them back whole, right? You're trying to take them alive. Again, maybe you're going to kill them later, whatever. We don't know that. But I'm saying, how do you get all the way here for this singular purpose of grabbing people and you don't use tools to help you do that? Again, if you're saying, oh, well, maybe these are honorable people, they do everything with their bare hands. One, they're using cloaking technology, right? If you were truly that honorable of a people, you would not cloak yourself because you would have no need to do so. You're saying, okay, maybe they're like Predator. Maybe they're like they're hunters, right? Predator has a code of honor. Would a predator hold a child hostage? No, it doesn't make any sense. Why would an honorable hunter hold a small child hostage? There was no reason. If he was taking the child for some kind of trophy or something, that's one thing. No, he was specifically holding that child hostage for whatever reason we don't know. What was he trying to get? Oh, I don't know.
Revenge for getting his fingers cut off because he was left there because he was wounded.
Right. Wounded. 2 fingers cut off is wounded.
You're not perfect enough. Yeah, you're
ridiculous.
Too hurt.
It's ridiculous. If you're attacking a planet with your bare hands and somebody gets 2 fingertips cut off, that's wounded enough to leave there. They probably left half their entire population there.
Especially in America. They're shot.
Right. I'm just saying, if you get shot once and survive, you're sorry, 2 wounded, stay there. I mean, what kind of idiot alien race is, again, they have the technology to get here. They have the cloaking technology, and yet they came down here and tried grabbing people with their bare hands. They had no weapons to break down a door. They didn't have a battering ram. I mean, you could literally use found objects. You could have used a log from outside. You could have used anything, but no, they're banging on it with their bare hands like a bunch of idiots. And these are supposed to be advanced beings from another planet. And this is how you're trying to do stuff?
Physically superior to us.
Right. I mean, like, this is how you're doing it. Like, oh, they have chameleon, things so they can disguise themselves. They show a couple of times where, like, the girl's screaming face is, like, literally on the alien skin. It's like their chameleon abilities are that good.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, if they're literally coming to grab you with their bare hands, what the hell difference does it make if you're camouflaged or not? By the time they get close enough, you're going to know they're there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just there's such the huge leaps in logic. I mean, that's to me, that's a plot hole you can drive a freaking bullet train through. You know what I mean? That makes absolutely no sense. Whatever reason they are here to hunt people, they would have some method of capturing them. You know, again, like it would take, like, I mean, if you're a hunter looking at what the weaknesses of men, it would not take very long to see, like, oh, look, they have stun batons that they stun each other with. You know, cops have tasers, right? All of these things are for used, you know, for incapacitating people to be able to grab them. How come they wouldn't use any of that? They come down here with their bare hands. They weren't even wearing clothes.
Right.
I mean, to me, it's so ridiculous. And then, you know, even like, oh, they say, how ridiculous is it that they would attack a planet that's 2/3 water if they're allergic to water?
Yes.
Right. Again, and I get that. A lot of people assume that's what I'm going to rant about. They almost always do. Like, oh, I know what you're going to rant about. It's going to be the water thing. No, really, it's not. Because again, I watch a lot of sci-fi. Okay. I have to suspend my disbelief a lot to enjoy probably the majority of the sci-fi stuff that I watch, right? Because a lot of it doesn't make sense. You have to believe certain things in order for it to be fun.
Yes.
I can use that ability to say, okay, well, maybe the water on our planet has some kind of microbes in them, right? That don't exist anywhere else in the universe, because we don't know, because we've never tested water from other planets, right?
Yes.
There may be things in our water that don't exist in other places, and that's the thing that acts like acid to them. You know, maybe the water that we have is a certain pH level that's neutral to us, right? But that water level might be a different pH level on an alien planet, to where now ours is acid to them, but theirs would be an alkaline to us, or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. I mean, but I can use that ability to see past that and suspend that disbelief. So the water thing, I'm not so upset about. The thing that pisses me off is just that they would come here without any tools, without any weapons. Again, what is the key to technology? The key to technology is your thumb. Because you can hold a tool with it. That is the entire thing. That was how technology started, is you hold a tool that helps you do your life's work with tools. Like originally we used sticks and rocks, right? To make things easier. You know, like you make like a cheap knife out of a chipped rock, and then you can now cut stuff with it, right? I mean, this is basic, the starting of technology. So if you have the technology to make a ship and a cloaking device, you have the technology to make some kind of net or stun baton or I mean, guns, obviously, but I mean, if you're trying to harvest people, I understand why they wouldn't want to kill them. But there are plenty of weapons that you can use that don't kill people, but can capture them without injuring you. And if that is the entire purpose of your species, which it seems like it is, that really, really doesn't make sense to me that they wouldn't have some kind of tool to do that with. That's the thing that didn't sit right with me. Is like, why are they down here scrambling around in their with their bare hands when they should have something to work with?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And like, to the water point, you know, I would say yes, it's not necessarily a suspension of disbelief to me, because even in stupid Prometheus and Alien Covenant, we test the water before we go ahead and drink it. We have to realize that this environment is hostile to us a little bit. But if they're having scouts, they should know that too.
I mean, yeah, I would assume so. But I mean, the thing is that, I mean, if you've been to, let's say, 100 worlds that had water on them and you were never allergic to the water, it wouldn't be something you'd look for.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, I mean, if they got those big old ships, I'm assuming they have their own, drinking water or whatever else they drink, I'm sure they have their own stuff. They don't have to come and drink ours. And at some point, unfortunately, after their attack, that's when they found out, like, oh shit, we need to get out of here.
Frank Don messed up. He didn't scout this plan, right?
Right, but it's like, I mean, how for doing all of that, you're pretty damn cowardly. That if the people find some little way to fight back, you immediately run away, leave all of your people behind, and just run.
Yes.
I mean, that's extremely cowardly. And you could say, yeah, I mean, a lot of people that are, traditionally whatever, cannibals or, slave traders, whatever they are, have been cowards and terrible people. That's correct. but those
Yes.
people at least have the intelligence to know how to capture people.
Yep.
Right? You know, like, oh, the cannibals. I'm talking movie level cannibals. I'm not talking real cannibals, but I like movie level cannibals. They always have like traps or something, right? Or they try to make you trust them, and then eventually let you guard down, and then they get you later, or whatever it is. There's always some way for them to do stuff. Like slave traders, they had nets and and ways to grab them and hold them down, or shackles and stuff to like make sure that they could get them without hurting themselves, right?
Even a planet full of apes that rode on horseback had nets.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's like one of the basic tools. I mean, like again, you first learned about nets when you're trying to fish, right? I
Right.
mean, I guess you could say, well, maybe they don't have water on their planet, and that's why they get water, and they never fished, so that they never came up with nets. Okay, that's fine, but they should have some kind of tool that helps them grab. I mean, maybe it's just like one of those big grabby hands, right? Just have like a super technological version of that just grabs people and you just throw them in a bucket or something.
And you could even venture to say that they would probably have gone to other planets first and maybe just thought the idea that humans are the weakest species, so there would be no issue.
Well, yeah, but still, you don't come down with your bare hands.
I know.
I mean, nobody does that. Even like, talking in World War II, like the Nazis who thought everyone was inferior to them, right?
Yep.
Did they walk into their town naked and try to fight people with their bare hands because they're superior? No, they're not stupid. This again, people that have spaceships and cloaking devices they obviously have some smart people around.
Right. And they know enough that they need us for something.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, the whole thing was just such a huge lack of logic. It's a huge plot hole to me that was the thing that bothered me. And after I thought about it, that was the thing that just, it prevents me from enjoying this movie because that bothers me so much.
So it bothers you more than the actual twist of the movie.
Yes. It does.
That's fair.
Because to me, it's like, it's such a huge oversight. Like anybody who thought about this for longer than like 30 minutes, which I'm assuming that took longer than that to write and think out this movie. Anybody that looked at this, whatever. I just say, like anybody who looks at this rationally, within like 30 minutes will be like, why don't they have weapons? Why are they using their bare hands? It doesn't make sense. Anyone could do that. It's an amateur move to not think that far ahead.
Hey,
and
doors are hard. Okay.
Well, okay. The door thing, people make fun of him not being able to open the door. He couldn't open the door because there was a freaking table holding it shut.
Right.
That's okay. I forgive him for that. When it came to the doorknob in the basement, they were trying to turn it. They understood how doorknobs work, at least at that point in time.
And that was a really shoddy door too.
Right. But I'm just, what I'm saying is that they figured it out so that they're not like brain dead.
Yes.
They can understand how to do things, but like, why would you ever try to just grab people with bare hands? Because they got lucky. This guy's a priest and he doesn't have any guns in his house. Right. Any other hick town, if you're going to like some farmhouse in the middle of nowhere,
in the Midwest.
Philadelphia in the, whatever, 45 miles away, whatever. If there's a farmhouse with a cornfield around it, people have guns. Guaranteed.
Yep.
And even if they have like, some gun that their granddad had, as long as it still functions, these things would be obliterated.
Yes.
I mean, there would be no way to fight back. And they're talking about the only people who fought back were the people that figure out that water hurt him. I'm like, if they're coming at you with their bare hands, anyone with the gun would be, way better than they would.
Yes.
Again, that was another thing that didn't make sense to me. It's like, in this specific instance, at that specific house, yes. It would have been an even match because there's no guns there.
Right.
But in any other normal Midwestern house or, anywhere really, there's guns everywhere, especially in America.
Yes.
And one of those guns could take out their entire group.
Yep.
Right. Because they're obviously not bulletproof because if you hit them with a bat, they fall down.
Right.
So like they're obviously not invincible. They're not that strong. If they would have had any like normal, farm shotgun, they would have blasted that thing in outer space.
I would say they're more fragile than we were too. Even though strength and speed, not even strength, I mean, how hard is it to move a table from a
Well,
door?
when you're on the other side of the door, it's kind of hard. That's why I like the whole
But
putting the chair under the doorknob thing. Yeah, it would be easy to move the chair away. When you're on the other side, it's extremely hard to get through that door.
Well, I'm saying they can run really fast. They're agile enough to get on top of a farmhouse really quickly, but you'd think strength wise they'd have more.
Well, yeah. Again, it's like conveniently they're super strong and super agile, except when they don't want them to be,
Right.
and then they're not anymore. But again, they're just the more you think about it, the more ridiculous and stupid these aliens seem. There's just so many huge plot holes about what they're here for and what they would be doing if they were here for that. I don't know. Again, the more and more I think about it, the more I think about this movie, I just get angry and just like how stupid he thinks we are.
Right. So, would you say up until that point, okay, even twist is pretty dumb, but besides that part, that just takes you out of the movie, right? It ruins the movie.
Yes.
And does it make it even worse on the rewatch, do you think?
I'd say it's about the same. I mean, it started earlier, because I already knew it was going to happen.
Right.
But essentially it's just the same like stupidity. Like up until that point, again, the movie is well shot. I mean, it's well acted. As I said, it's the acting is passable. It's not, again, it's no Oscar worthy performances here, but it's good. And it just it falls apart. It just falls apart when the aliens actually, like, I'm using quotes here, attack. Like it's such like I don't even know. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just so like imbecilic, right? It's like so like childish, like the way that this attack is thought out.
Would you say it's insulting how stupid?
Yeah. Again, as I said before, it's like how stupid they think we are that we're not going to make those decisions, and that's again from this point forward in his catalog of movies, this is a kind of a normal thing now.
Yep.
Like, I don't know, he had great twists in the first couple of movies, and he's like, oh yeah, I got this down, no problem. I can do this, and this is the first one that really made me go, wow. Like, you really didn't think of any of this? Like, you didn't think of this at all through the whole production process of this movie? No one ever said, hey, why don't they have a stun gun? No one ever said that to you? I highly doubt that.
Right. And at this point, going forward, as of right now, until we get later into his movies potentially, that it's like he wrote the twist first and then wrote a movie around it. It's like he took the idea of, hey, what if War of the Worlds, but instead of microbes, they're just allergic to the water.
Yeah, it's like he takes like this base idea or base like metaphor, and then he makes the movie around it. But the thing is that he doesn't think through a lot of it. Like he's trying to put up buttresses to support his goofy metaphor, and he's not thinking logically about what would really happen in that situation.
Correct.
And again, moving forward, this is not all of these movies, because there are movies after this point that I do like, but they are now in the minority past this point.
His bell curve went really high for greatness, and then steep drop.
Right, yeah. And then after this,
it's like a gradual incline.
Signs upset me a lot. But again, there was still some positivity there. Like, okay, maybe this was just his one miss. And this next one is the one that this one is like, no, he is dead to me. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. So, number of brain cells lost out of 10 for you on this one. But...
I try. There's a number I want to say. And then there's a number I have to try to factor in all the other elements here. And again, there is some good elements here. There's huge things that I can't get over. So this is obviously not going to be a rewatchable movie for me. No. But I can't take away all of its merits. It's not terrible. So I will say 4.5.
4.5.
4.5 out of 10.
All right, so you're saying he's about a 6-pack in you before you can watch
Right.
it.
Yeah. Right. Well, yeah, 6-pack, and I probably have to be alone because people don't want to hear me bitching the entire time.
I'm fine with it.
Well, you're fine. I'm just saying, people in general.
Yeah. So, especially the rewatch, right? I don't rewatch this one often. To me, it gets worse every time I see it. And knowing full well what we were looking at and stuff like this with this, I don't like. The wife will put it on probably every couple of years. I don't sit down and watch. I probably only watch this 3 full times now. So it's a big decline, and I am going down to 5.5. When I first watched it, I wasn't as bothered with it. On each rewatch, though, it gets worse for me.
Yeah, it's again. This is only the second time I've ever watched this movie. The first time I watched it, thankfully, it was not in a theater. I did wait until it came out on video, because at this time I was broke, so I didn't see any. I didn't see Sixth Sense or Unbreakable or Signs in the theater. So I wanted to, but I was broke, so I had to wait till it came to, at this point in time, Blockbuster, I believe, because it was 2002 or 3.
Was this part of your downfall of your lack of horror movies? Was this movie contributing to that?
Yeah, I think it was already fading before this point, but this was one of the stabs, because he was like he had those 2 great movies, and I'm like, okay, he's one of the last horror people that I actually enjoy, and then this movie just ruined it.
It's fair. All right, you're ready to go on to the next shit show.
Okay, now I am going to do my best to try to keep the venom out of my voice as you're describing this movie.
Fair.
I can't promise that it will be completely missing, but I will do my best to keep it to our rant section.
Yeah, this next movie really like, this was the one after this, which we're discussing next week, is also a huge decline too. I saw next one is The Village. I did see this in theaters again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I still had some hope. I believe this would be good.
I believe I didn't see it. I definitely didn't see it in theaters, and I didn't see it right when it came out on video. I want to say it was probably a year or 2 later when I watched it.
Yeah.
I didn't know the twist before I watched it, so I just kind of stayed out of those conversations. But yeah, it was a while.
It was easier in 2006. The internet really wasn't that prevalent.
Well, yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, we weren't attached to it. We didn't. I didn't even have a cell phone at this point in time. So
yeah,
I don't think I got a cell phone until 2007 or 8.
Yeah, I mean, cell phones didn't really have much internet at this point.
No, I'm just saying this is the era of technology that we're talking.
Yeah. I mean, the wife and I, girlfriend then still, were excited for this because she got sick of all the torture porn movies that came out the year before. We already had our Hostels, we already had our Cabin Fevers, we already had our Saw. So she was more hopeful with this, with a supernatural thriller horror movie like this, than the other stuff that's come out at that point in time. So I went into this hopeful that maybe Signs was a flop. Maybe Signs was just a fluke. We can get out of our minds, and he'll return to form with this movie. As we'll discuss, clearly not. So it starts off with Brendan Gleeson. Before I get into that, once again, stellar cast in this movie.
Yeah, really. I mean, yeah, you're talking. I mean, that's it. William Hurt. I mean, Sigourney Weaver, Joaquin Phoenix again, Bryce Dallas Howard. I mean,
Jesse Eisenberg.
Right. Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg in a tiny little role. I don't think any of his appearances are even like in focus. Well, I guess the one is in focus, but the other his other major scene, he's not even in focus in this scene.
Agent Brody.
Yeah,
Judy Greer.
Brody. Yeah, I mean, this is like all of his movies have great cast.
You said what? Did you say Joaquin yet?
Yes.
Yeah. And Brendan Gleeson. Love Brendan Gleeson.
Is he Mr. Nicholson?
In Mr. Mercedes, yeah. He was,
in this movie, Mr. Nicholson.
yeah,
The guy whose kid dies in the very, very beginning.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I don't know his name, but I know the guy. Yes, I know you're talking about.
Yeah, he was in 28 Days Later.
Yeah. He was also in Gangs in New York.
Lake Placid. He's in shit tons of stuff.
Yeah. No, he's fantastic. I didn't know his name, but I definitely know him.
I already liked him because of all the stuff previously, like Lake Placid and all that stuff. Loved him in that. Regardless, like I said, great cast.
Mm-hmm.
Like a great premise. The trailer was phenomenal. I think it really worked to lure you in.
Oh, it did.
Anyway,
it definitely did. And I was thinking about it, but I was like, no. I got burned.
You hurt me, M. Night. You hurt
me. I don't want to stay away from it. But a lot of things were happening in this point in time. I think when did episode 2 come out? It was right around this time, right?
A year before.
Yeah. So this is like the time period where I was trying to distance myself.
No, episode 3 was out by then. This is 2006.
Well,
so
okay.
3 was 2005.
I was so angry at episode 1 that I did not watch episode 2 until I believe 2 or 3 years after episode 3 came out.
Okay.
So
about this time frame. Yeah.
Right. So like I totally stayed away from them because I was just angry at like every movie maker at the time. I was just trying to stay away from movies. I was just very angry.
That's fair. Rightfully so.
I was very disappointed at this point in history. I was very upset.
Yeah. All right. So it starts off with Brendan Gleeson's Mr. Nixon burying a kid, and we see a tombstone. And I don't know how I want to describe this. So it's essentially,
the tombstone says that the kid died in 1897, and since he's burying him now, that means that right now it is 1897.
Yes.
Correct. That's the only way to say it.
Yeah. So essentially, there's so little that happens in here. In this movie, essentially, we get to get introduced to the townsfolk. The older actors that we named are the elders of this, and they kind of discuss, like, we get like a montage of everything that's going on there, right? We see this quaint Pennsylvania town, because of course it's Pennsylvania, and people just churning butter, people sweeping, having fun, kids being kids, and while two young ladies were sweeping, they see a red flower, they pick it up and immediately bury it. So once again, it's color red, big thing.
Right.
And we get introduced to we get Lucius Hunt, played by Joaquin Phoenix, I think does a good job. He goes, I know my dad died because he left town, but we need to go to these other towns to get medicine. I think I'm strong enough, I'm brave enough, they can, these creatures that those we don't speak of, that they'll see my intentions are pure. They won't hurt me. But we've had this truce. We have this tree line that we have lit torches and guard towers, and we have this truce with them. We don't go into their territory. They don't come into our territory. So we have this.
Right. Yeah, but that basically meaning they can't leave the town because these, people that shall not be named or whatever they are,
those that we don't speak of,
live outside. Yeah, those they don't speak of live outside in the forest, and so they can't leave the town because then they'll be trespassing on their land
and break the truce.
Right. So essentially, they have to stay in the town all the time. Period.
Yes. And there's his friend is watch how they go. They hear like howling and rustling. But then strange creatures, I don't know if there's like strange pigmen babies, are like killed throughout the town every once in a while.
And they look like gnolls. If you know D&D stuff, gnolls are like hyena men. They look like hyena men.
Yeah, but they're like, they're just coyotes. Coyotes, like, well, coyotes don't just rip the fur, feathers, skin off and leave the meat and leave this is much more powerful. Stuff like that. Right. They're debating all this stuff. But Judy Greer, I didn't know at that time, I didn't know who Judy Greer was. She's such a small role. Cameras never focused on her.
Yeah.
And she's talking to her dad's William Hurt.
Yeah, William Hurt is the father of Judy Greer and Bryce Dallas Howard. Bryce Dallas Howard plays the younger sister.
But she doesn't really come in till, like, we get Joaquin Phoenix and Judy Greer and other characters well before her.
Right. Yeah, literally the first appearance of Bryce Dallas Howard in this movie is when she's consoling Judy Greer after Joaquin Phoenix turns her down.
Right.
That is literally her first appearance in the movie.
Yeah, because she's talking to her dad. She's like, I'm intended to marry this man. Does he know that? No, he doesn't know that yet. I haven't spoke to him about it. I'm in love, Daddy.
Right.
Daddy, I'm in love. And he, talks to him, and she's just crying her eyes out. And then we meet Bryce Dallas Howard, and comforting her. She's blind.
But she can still run.
She runs really well.
Yeah.
She knows that town inside out.
I'm holding back. So one quick aside. Those torches at the edge of the town,
yes,
right? They burn all night long.
Yep.
Do you have any idea the logistics of how much fuel you would need to keep those torches burning every night? I mean, you're talking like what, 12 hours, right? A night. And the torches are like maybe 10 feet apart.
They have to have like some sort of animal rendering factory somewhere.
I'm just saying, like, there is no way that these people could produce that much fuel. There's no possible way. Their entire they'd have to have a tank the entire size of their town underneath that place.
Yes. Yeah, we'll get into logistics of this place.
Yeah, I'm not. There's a lot more I want to say. I'm just quick aside. That's not my main problem.
And Lucius talking about, there's secrets everywhere. Everyone has a secret. And like, you look at the elders' house and they have this black box that's just there. Right.
A locked black box.
Yes. We also introduced Agent Brody, who is mentally challenged in this movie.
He's a simple man.
Yeah, he is. Really fast runner. Likes to play games with Bryce Dallas Howard's character. You can tell that he clearly loves her. Or is infatuated with her.
In his way, yes.
And they play running games where you have the simpleton and the blind woman running around the town playing hide and seek.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to get to it. But anyway, she's a blind girl, and she is running full speed down a hill. And we're not talking this is just a plain old empty place. No, there's like trees around. There's like scrub brush and stuff. There's like clear paths that you have to follow. And she just runs full speed with no stick, no nothing, no hands out in front of her, just running full speed.
Yep.
Okay.
So, and they meet down by after she runs to there, they run to like the edge by like a creek, essentially. And she's talking to Lucius, like, I understand you spurned my sister. I think it's because you used to, whenever my hand was held out, you would hold it, and that becomes a theme kind of throughout that movie a little bit, right?
Uh-huh.
So Lucius loves her, but in this olden period, that the eldest daughter has to be spoken for first before the next daughter can get married off. Within I'd say a couple of days later, Judy Greer's character is in love with another man.
A couple days later, she's engaged to do another man. Not just in love with another, engaged to another man.
Even though he doesn't like his shirt to be wrinkled.
Correct. And the funny thing, that dude that she's engaged to was the guy that was like the computer expert in Dollhouse, if you ever watched that show.
Was it him? I thought it was.
That's him.
The stoner from Cabin in the Woods.
Right.
Yes. Okay, I thought it was him. Jesse Eisenberg, his character after this, he has a bowl hat.
Yeah. Bowler
hat. Yes. That's his character development. There you go.
Correct. Yes. He has like 2 lines in the whole movie.
Yeah, and they play this game where they turn their back to the edge of the woods and then see who could be their longest. Lucius had the longest record because he questions a lot of stuff that's going on in this village. He questions why he can't leave town, if these creatures are real or not, blah, 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 blah. So there's dissent going among the teens teen, young 20-year-olds of not
Oh.
believing
Well,
stuff
yeah,
that's going on.
to be fair, he doesn't want to go outside just because he wants to go outside. He wants to go outside to get medicine. Like the kid that died in the beginning of this died
Should not
from
have died.
disease.
Yeah. Right.
And they're saying like there's medicines that could have prevented this disease in the towns. That's what they call the outside world, the towns.
Yeah.
Is they need to go there to get medicine to make sure that people don't die like this anymore. So I mean, he has a
Good
noble
intentions.
reason for doing this. Yeah, he's not just
Right.
doing it because he's like, well, screw you guys, I want to go outside. No, he's like, we need to get medicine so that other people can live, so that no one else dies. He's doing it for noble reasons.
But he also understands there's secrets and there's more to this village than what he realizes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he thinks it goes deep or anything, but he knows the elders have their reasons. He just wants to convince them otherwise.
Right. So Judy Greer gets married to I don't want my shirt wrinkled guy.
Right.
And an attack happens. They spot creatures coming into the village, so everyone kind of runs and hides, and the whole holding the hand things out. Like Bryce Dallas Howard's leading, holding her hand out, trying to find her through, and then he grabs it and saves her, pulls her out of the safety, and then they start seeing creatures, and then they're going underneath, and she's holding her hand out for him to come back because he's going to stay and see what's happening with those that we don't speak of, right?
Right. And just a quick aside here. She is totally blind, but she can see two people's auras, essentially. So you can see auras of two people. One is her father, and two is Lucius.
Yes.
So she knows when he's around because she can see his aura. And
right.
Same thing
because she's able to see. He's outside her porch one time, and she's like, "I saw your color.
Right.
I saw you."
Right.
But anyway, she holds her hand out, and they go there. And there's attacks at the doors, and some houses have essentially had red marked on their doors, being marked or saying that this is now kind of a, you invaded our spot, because Agent Brody's character was seen venturing outside the town into the forest, and he finds red berries. Red attracts them. Red is the forbidden color, and they wear yellow to counteract it. So essentially, then they start realizing that Lucius and Ivy is Bryce Dallas Howard are in love. Agent Brody character doesn't like that very much, so he gets a little stab happy with Lucius.
Right.
And I would say at this point in time, this is the change from it being focused on Ivy, or from Lucius and her sister, to Ivy.
Right.
Is when he gets stabbed. And they go, "Oh, he's been stabbed." And he's like, "Okay." And he gets stabbed at least one more time.
Yeah. He gets stabbed. Multiple times.
Right. But they're going to get medicines that's going to help stop the stabbing from happening.
Well, no, like later on, the one guy says he was able to sew him up. So that part of it is fine. Yeah, the infection thing is what they're concerned about.
It's always an infection that kills people in this time period.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like, they can sew you up just fine, but you're going to die from something, because probably what you got stabbed with hasn't been cleaned in ever.
Right. So, so William Hurt's character is like, my daughter, I want to go to the towns to get medicine. No one else should have to die. Essentially, he doesn't want his daughter to lose her love, who's fading because she doesn't see his color anymore.
Right.
And he's meeting with the elders behind the building. Like, we left the towns for a reason. We have this place. We don't go back there. Like, well, Ivy's going. And so she goes. And she gets led to the forbidden shed.
Right.
And she goes, "Oh, okay." And then she starts to go with her. We're saying the strongest person we have to the towns. They sent Ivy, who's never left the town, to go find the towns with her magic rocks, and two men that are supposed to be accompanying her.
Two
boys. One gets steps into the woods. He goes, "Nope, I'm out. See ya."
Exactly.
And this is only supposed to be like a half-day hike for a fully abled person that knows the woods, that be able to see. It's only supposed to be like a half-day hike. Obviously, it's going to take her a little bit longer because she doesn't know it. There's places she's never been. She builds it's not a lean-to, but like the hire's nest. What would you call it? putting like the
protection from the rain. I
well,
don't know.
almost camouflage-ish.
Well, it's
But
just
yeah,
tarp to stop being
yeah.
rained on.
And the other guy goes, you know what? You're strong enough to do this by yourself. See ya.
Right.
And she then is traveling through the woods. You know, Adrian Brody's character is locked up at this point because he did bad things. He's been in the silent house before when he's bad. And eventually she finds like a big pit that she almost falls into, is able to climb out of. And then she's wandering around.
She does fall into, she just doesn't fall all the way in.
Yeah. And then she runs around. She's hearing a creature. And she's running, and she doesn't realize it, but she's in the field of the red flowers, essentially. And then we do see a creature in the woods. I think is that when we get the flashback to what was in the shed?
We get the flashback right after the second guy leaves, or right before, right around there.
So essentially, they have a suit of the creature, those that we don't speak of, in the shed. That that they were creatures that exist in the forest, but they do this to keep people out of there. So they have their own suit. So it's all been them, at least for inside the town. It's been the elders or someone wearing it. That they are based off. They created this idea of creatures that her dad's a teacher that he read about creatures that exist in the woods. So they never actually met them, but they based their fear and the creatures they tell the kids that are there off of these tales that are in the creatures in the woods around there. So she knew at this point that they're, at least the ones in the town, were fake.
Right.
This one seems to be different. Starts chasing her down. She's able to run really well and find her way back to the pit by herself without her cane, because her cane was broken at that point. And she stands at the edge of the pit, and the creature goes to lunge at her and falls into the pit. I believe at this point, then we get flashback to the town. They go look at Adrian Brody's character, and he escaped the silent house. And we cut back to her, and realizes Adrian Brody's character in that suit, and he dies. So he's able to track her. He probably had known for quite some time that the creature was just a suit. But essentially, he was playing with her hide and seek like they did normally. It makes sense that he'd want to follow her to make sure, because he cares for her in his way. So eventually she gets to what seems to be a wall of ivy or vines, and then we can tell, wait, something's weird. And she climbs it. She jumps on the other side, and it's a fence. Like a normal fence. And a car drives up, and this is when we realize that it is modern times. She can't see anything. She's like, hey, I need this list of things. Can you get them? The guy calls it in, and we find, what's your name? Ivy Walker. It's Walker Forest Preserve on the truck. He gets back to a guardhouse where M. Night's there. And, don't talk to anyone. That a couple years ago they had some billionaire tell him, hey, this preserve is a no-fly zone to protect the animals that live within it. No one can go in there even if you hear anything. Gets medicine. She returns. While this is going on there's also a flashback to the elders opening up their boxes and realizing that in the 70s or 80s that they all had someone in their life die from violence. So they decided to build this town kind of as an experiment, because the dad really was a teacher and he wants to go back to a simpler time. Right. And that his dad was shot in the head by his business partner for the money, and the business partner killed himself. They all met through like grief counseling, and they all decided to do this. Here they are 25-ish years, 30 years later, and they raised their kids in this village, and this is their secret. And then people start running. Ivy's returned. She killed one of the monsters. And that's when they realized that Adrian Brody's parents that he is dead. William Hurt's character goes, well, your son made these creatures more real than we ever could. And then she comes back to Lucius's side and is like, I came back. I have the medicine. End of movie.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
My first thoughts when I saw this was, all right, his decline is still going down.
Well, yeah. After I watched this movie, I basically decided that I did not like him anymore.
Yeah.
This was basically the last straw for me.
This may have been, other than the Riff Tracks version, if there is one, it's either the second or third time I've watched this movie. And that's it.
Yeah, this is only my second. I was very, very angry the first time I watched it, and this is only the second time I've ever watched it since.
Yeah, so yeah, that's my first thoughts was this. The acting was fine. The storytelling, the twist was awful. And we'll get into that twist. Do you said highlights is the cast. The cast is amazing. Visually, looks great.
Yeah, like I said, it's up until a certain point, it's a good movie. I mean, it really is. It's shot well. It's acted well. It's done. You know, there's like a mystery of like what's going on and what these things are and that kind of. You know, it really, you know, sells that.
Yes,
I'll give it. I'll give it that. Yeah.
Low points besides you have low points other than the twist or some of the plot that were.
I mean, I'm just gonna say faults in logic. There's so many just stupid faults in logic that's gonna be my low point. I'll go into them.
Yeah. That's definitely the 100% the low points of that. Well, let's get into that. Right, shall we? The twist.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, number one, you can't figure out the twist because he blatantly lies to you. Like I said,
flat lies.
Yeah, the very first scene of the movie, the tombstone clearly says 1897.
Yep.
Now he didn't have to put a year on that tombstone. I mean, could have very easily not. No one would have seen it as odd if you didn't put a year on a tombstone, especially in 1897. Half the time they just had a wooden cross as a fucking tombstone anyway. But like, I mean, it wasn't a big thing.
If he didn't show the year, it would have been far better. I rewatched it. I go, he fucking lied.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I didn't catch it the first time because obviously I wasn't looking for it. But yeah, like literally the first scene of the movie, and you look and you see, okay, 1897. That's a clear lie. Like you can't see this twist coming because you blatantly lie to people.
Yeah.
I mean, not only that, but like, I mean, this is a small town, right?
Yep.
When you're talking like how many people live in this town, like maybe 100 people.
Yeah.
And you look at like who is making the tombstones.
Yep.
Who is making that coffin? It's like a perfectly wooden pine coffin.
Yeah.
You're like, where are all these craftsmen that are making all this stuff? I mean, because you can have all this stuff made. I mean, he's a billionaire. And, he can make this little village in the middle of nowhere. But again, no one leaves the town, including them. So everything moving forward is going to have to be self-sufficient. And that stuff is going to wear out. So you're talking, 20, 25 years later, like a lot of this stuff is going to be breaking down.
They have enough livestock. They have enough everything.
Right. I mean, there's just so many things that don't make sense. I mean, there are ways to do it, sure. But I mean, it's just not done well. Like I brought up the point about the torches before. Like they clearly use fuel. Like if you look at them, they have like little buckets of fuel. Like they very clearly use some kind of oil or some kind of thing, and they let them burn all night long. And there's one every 10 feet around the entire outskirts of the city. And again, you can picture how big a town is with 100 people. There's like houses for every family.
Yes.
And then they have like the whole town square where they have these big, huge tables where everybody eats dinner together and stuff. Like this is like a pretty large thing. So you're talking, again, in order to keep this stuff going for 20 years, because you have no way to make your own fuel in the middle of a forest, in the middle of nowhere.
Correct.
So like you'd literally have to have a tank that's like as big as the entire town underneath it just for that one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like food and stuff. Yeah, you can easily, again, we didn't see the entire town. They could have easily lived self-sufficient. I mean, they've shown that, if you have I think it's what is a half acre. If you like maximize the efficiency for like a half acre of land, you can feed yourself off of that. Like I
right.
think you can feed a family off of that. Like
Yeah.
totally self-sufficient.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's possible that like that part I'm not upset about. I'm just saying like, anything that's metal. They didn't have a blacksmith. They don't have anybody mining ore to make things with.
Correct.
You know what I mean? It's like anything that knew that they would need, like, again, they're there having children and stuff. Like, where are they getting the stuff to, I mean, they'd have to have a huge flock of sheep and everything would have to be made out of wool.
Yeah.
They don't have cotton, the amount, space you need to make the amount of cotton to make clothes for all these people. Like we're talking like belts and, and hats and buckles and all this stuff that they have. They don't have the materials to make that stuff. It would, again, after 20 to 25 years, all that stuff would be breaking down. It would look like a post-apocalyptic town by that point because they have no new resources coming in.
Yeah.
Again, it's an idea that he thought of, and then no one ever gave him the logistical, like, this would not work.
Yeah. And, well, I mean, they talk about even when she goes out, they're talking about the newspaper that only a couple years ago that someone issued a no-fly over there. Like, that means he still left the town. Someone had to do it, right? If he was the sole proprietor of the money, he owned the forest preserve.
He obviously has people on the outside because there's no way that he could, here, security company, here's your payment for the next however many years. There's no way in hell they would still do their job.
Right.
If they had no one to check on them, they wouldn't do their job. They'd just leave and just take all that money. So, I mean, there's still obviously somebody, probably like a foundation. I mean, that's usually how they do it. They have some kind of foundation and they appoint people to see their interests. So there's probably people that know they're in there on the outside, obviously the minority, but there has to be people on the outside that know they're in there and their interest is if they want to keep the foundation going because they know if people find him there, the foundation's funding is going to go away. Right.
Yeah.
So they know that their job depends on them keeping people out of there. So yeah, I'm sure those people would be working behind the scenes to make sure that they never get found. Because again, if they get found, they lose all their money.
Yep.
And so this guy is probably sitting on a cush job making, millions of dollars a year, just making sure these people don't get found and that nobody goes in that place.
Yes.
So that again, that part I'm not too upset about. That part I can make sense of.
Yeah. So let's talk about sending Bryce Dallas Howard to go get
okay. See, this is the thing that really, really bothers me. There's two things that really, really bother me here. One is that, I mean, how big of assholes are these elders, right? That they literally interrupt their own daughter's wedding to scare people with this fake ass shit, right?
Yes.
I mean, they literally the wedding was still going full strength. Everybody was partying and stuff.
But there's joy, there's happiness, there's unity.
And they totally interrupt it for like everybody, because everybody, except for them, thinks that this stuff is real.
Yes.
So they're running around pretending like they're running for their lives as well in the middle of a freaking wedding just to like scare people into not leaving. I mean, it's not like they're just telling people don't go into the woods, bad stuff will happen in there. No, they are actively like using psychological warfare against these people, right? To force them to never go out there because you will die. I mean, that's literally what they're saying. And so these elders dressed up in these outfits and like chased people around, like scaring them, like, making them hide in the basements during this wedding. And then like, again, they're skinning animals, right? They're killing and slaughtering their own livestock to try to make a point. Now later on, they do make a statement when Ivy is talking to her dad after she gets shown the shed, and she's like, "So you guys killed all those animals too?" And what does he say? He goes, "Oh, I think it's one of the elders, but I don't think that'll happen anymore." I mean, that's your explanation. that's all you have. That is your livelihood. You literally said earlier in the movie, all of your livestock is dead. So if
Yep.
all of your livestock is dead, you're basically, your entire livelihood is gone. So if
Yep.
all of your livelihood is gone and you're not even concerned, and then
Yeah.
later on they say, oh, it wasn't an elder that did that, it was Adrian Brody that did that.
Yep.
How would the elder's number one priority not be finding out who the hell would do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if somebody, again, they would have had to know that somebody else is wearing a suit that isn't them. Because all they have to do is all get together and be like, did you wear this suit last night? And if everybody says no, then obviously you have a huge problem.
Yes.
Okay, that should be their number one focus. It is not even mentioned. It is like one backhanded comment. That's it. That's the whole explanation for that. How does that not? You're literally making people so afraid that they have to hide in their basements, throwing blood all over doors.
Yeah.
And like, oh, it just, these animals just happen to get skinned and slaughtered the same time you did that. No, you did that on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
So some of it was done on purpose and some of it was done by somebody else who's been wearing that suit, and they're not concerned about that at all. So obviously this thing that you're torturing people to try to keep in place, someone else knows that secret and you don't care. It doesn't make any sense. There's no way that makes any sense at all, especially with how far they go to try to keep this secret.
Yes.
And the second huge problem I have is that, okay, someone is dying. They even make the point, okay? Like, I mean, poor Mr. Nicholson, his kid just died from a preventable disease.
It's a big middle finger to him.
Right. I mean, it's a big middle finger to him, but I get he does make a good point, and I agree with that point, is he said this was a crime. And I get that. That's the whole reason why they made this place, right?
Yeah.
Was to avoid crime. Now, if a crime happens and they have the means to save this person, yes, they should by any means do that. But again, that does suck for him because his kid just died of a disease that could have been resolved if they just went to the towns.
Yep.
And they did talk about, well, there's sacrifices that we promised that we'd make, and I guess that's one of the sacrifices. But again, he makes that thing is this is a crime. This, a crime happened that caused this. This is a different story, and it is true. But the thing is that he doesn't believe it enough to go himself or to even send any one of those other people. Any one of those other people has been out there before. They know exactly what's out there. They know exactly what to do, exactly how to do it. They could put on some regular normal clothes and get out there, get the stuff, and get back. And nobody would even have any idea what was going on.
Right.
Or the guy that's freaking Mr. Walker himself could walk out there and just order these people to give him whatever he wants and then order them to never say they saw him.
Yeah.
I mean, not that would work, but I mean, tuck your pride under, man. I mean, you got somebody's life at stake here and you're worried about keeping some stupid oath that you made 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, this is somebody's life on the line and they literally hold up to that oath. And so who do they send to get the stuff? The person, you literally line up everybody in that entire town and you pick out the person that has the least chance of succeeding. Okay. Yes. A blind person. I understand. It's the whole metaphor. I get what he's trying to say. It doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense at all. You take the one person that has the least chance, the blind person, and send them out essentially alone. And those other two guys, what weakness of character, really, of all of these people. All of the elders are too afraid to break their own oath to save a life. And those
easily
two people,
preventable.
Right, yeah. Exactly. And these two people that they send with her are both okay with letting a blind girl go alone into this forest that they are afraid of. And they're okay with leaving her by herself.
Yeah.
I mean, what just horrible people. And one of those is her brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Like her brother-in-law leaves her in the forest. I mean, when she gets back there, obviously the medicine is the first priority. The second priority is like, get this dude the hell out of here. Like, these people are cowards. They have no fucking strength of character at all. These people do not deserve to be here.
No.
You know what I mean? I mean, how shitty is that? I'm just saying, all around, just a complete weakness of character. They are supposedly there because they want to build this, safe place that's supposed to be, where there's no violence and no bad things. But again, if you don't tell your children the truth, again, like they always say, history repeats itself, right? If you don't know your own history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. By not telling the people what's really going on, they're just forcing a whole new cycle of lies and bullshit and violence. And this is just the first step in that. The next generation, after those elders are gone, it's going to be the same as every other society because they're not going to know what's on the outside.
Yep.
And then what happens when they actually leave? They're going to be completely clueless as to what's going on because none of them know. I don't know. Again, there's so many stupid leaps in logic in this movie. It's just it's angering to think about.
And how many? Okay, let's think about this. Think about the small village. How many generations can they go without inbreeding?
Well,
one.
I mean, they'd have to be extremely careful. They'd have to have like a big chalkboard, and they would have to like match up, who is sleeping with who, and then whose children are married to. They would have to like constantly keep track of that.
Because okay, let's think about this, right? How many elders were there? 10?
Yeah, something like that.
How many kids were there?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, out of the first 10, there's like 100.
Yeah.
So, like, but again, yeah.
Right?
I don't know. Maybe they took in a bunch of orphans or something. I don't know. I don't know what happened.
There's like 30 kids in school.
Right. Yeah, there is a lot. And again, they pretty much show the home life of all the elders, and they only have like Sigourney Weaver only had the one kid. William Hurt only had 2. I mean, the people who Noah, who was Adrian Brody, they only had the one.
Yeah.
I mean, so I doubt the other family had 25 children.
Right. So unless they're the elders, unless there's other families that they built the sanctuary that they reached out to that weren't part of that initial picture, and they said, here 30 other families, come join us.
Right. I mean, that's the thing that just bothers me so much is that, this person is dying. These people could very easily go out there, get what they need, and get back with, minimal fuss, right? They can be back in a day.
Yes.
And they refuse to do it based on some like archaic oath that they took. And the oath is like, hey, don't ever go back to the towns, which again, at this point is ridiculous. Like their entire society would be collapsing. Yes. I mean, don't get me wrong. They could survive. And that's, again, self-sufficiency is possible. I'm just saying like they would, their clothes would be falling apart, by this point, 20, 25 years down the line, if they're working and doing hard work and stuff every day, I mean, stuff is getting torn, stuff is getting, sweat in, stuff is getting, weakened and stuff. Again, the stuff would be like tatters. It would look like, peasant serfs by this point in time.
Yeah. I don't know. And the blatant lie.
Yeah.
Did it really matter what year it was?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Did the town folk know? Did it really know what year it was?
No, again, it was a deliberate lie told so that the twist could like, oh, we didn't see that coming. Right, because you lied.
Yeah. Yeah. That angered me.
Yeah, I mean,
especially the rewatch. Second rewatch, I looked at it and I'm like, there's the year right there. I'm like, you son of a bitch. It's not a twist.
Right. Again, it's like, it's not hard to have a twist when you hard code in that it's the other thing, right? I mean, it's not hard to do.
Yeah. So does the twist ruin the movie, or is it more of Ivy going out for you? Or both. Combination of both.
I think it's both. I mean, there's a lot of things wrong with this movie. And again, if you watch it just on the surface and don't think about it, it's probably fine. But the thing that's what I don't like about his movies. Like as we're moving forward, they like it takes like less and less thought to make these movies. It's like he has like one casual thought and he just builds an entire movie, which takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And I don't understand how he's able to build these movies with these giant plot holes in them and nobody says anything about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know how they can not, he doesn't like, does he have so many yes men that like literally he can't understand that he's doing things the wrong way?
at this point in time in history, probably
Oh
they
my
just
God,
said do whatever he wants.
I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't know how some like anybody like editing this movie is like, did you not think of these things? Like these are
Right.
pretty big questions that anybody with half a brain is going to ask. Like, did you not even try to think that through?
Yeah.
Again, that's the thing. As he goes along, like he takes less and less thought to put in the background of these movies, and it really makes you feel like he thinks the viewer is dumber and dumber as he goes along. Like he's putting
Yeah.
less and less effort in because he feels like he doesn't have to or something.
He's just coasting.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. But like I feel like he's insulting my intelligence by making these things this way.
Right. And this is why we got into our out of 10 for brain cells lost, because you really have to lose a bit to even accept this as being good.
Right.
It's a one-time watch, and it's just like, no, I don't want to watch this ever again.
Correct.
Unfortunately, we had to, obviously, for the podcast, because I remember everything that happened from something that, 17 years ago in this movie. I've watched
this movie. I remember
times.
just about everything. The date thing I did not catch because again, at that point, you don't suspect that there's a twist coming.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you do. It's his movie. You expect some kind of twist, but you don't expect a time twist like that.
Yes. Yeah. So, how many brain cells lost out of 10 would you give this movie?
I really hate this movie. I don't know if I can. I mean, you probably got that by now, but I don't like it. I think it insults your intelligence, and it
Yes.
really just upsets me. I mean, they literally give away. I actually timed it. I stopped the movie and timed it. They give away that the monsters don't exist an hour and 10 minutes into the movie, and there's still 37 minutes after that.
Yep.
So, like, there's a time period when after they tell you that the monsters don't exist, to where she gets out of the gate, it's 25 minutes.
Yes.
Okay? 25 minutes of basically coasting time. Right? Because at this point, there's no monsters. And the other twist hasn't happened yet. So you're like sitting there, like twiddling your thumbs. Like, why are we even focusing on this? Why is this still going?
Yeah.
It's insulting. Anyway, sorry. I will give this movie a 2. A 2 out of 10, and I will give it a 2 and not lower than that, simply because some of the stuff is pretty good. Anything with Sigourney Weaver in it probably automatically gets a 1 instead of a 0. And again, like some of these performances are pretty good. Like Joaquin Phoenix did good. I mean, Bryce Dallas Howard's performance was pretty good. I mean, she was fairly convincing as a blind person, other than running through the forest.
Yeah.
Like completely blind, which is, I mean, idiotic. I mean, poor Adrian Brody. I mean, he's like a fantastic actor and got stuck in that role.
I mean, he did well in it.
No, yeah, he did well. I'm just saying, like, you're very much limiting his skills there.
Yes.
Again, but there's a lot of performances that are okay in there. And again, normally I would give them higher than that just for those performances, but I hate this movie so much. I have to take away a significant amount. So 2.
Yeah. I'm going to a 4. I said cast. I love the cast. Love lots of stuff they've done. Yeah, the insult, too hard to get past. And I'd say even on the rewatch though, like when Joaquin goes into Mr. Nicholson's house, he's like, "Oh, I'm not sleeping well. I haven't been getting much sleep." And I caught this, like, okay, because that means he was playing the monster for a couple nights because he's out late doing it. So there are subtle hints, but I'm like, also there's just that box that people could probably easy get into with all these secrets hidden right in the open. Like as soon as a parent's like, how did a kid never open up the forbidden box?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Like, my parents had a safe when I was a kid, and I was trying to open the thing. I was just trying to open up a corner so I could peek in there. I ended up breaking the handle off.
yeah, their whole integrity of keeping that village the way it was not tangible
No.
at all, and for the reasons you said,
Yeah,
kill all the livestock. Yeah, it's
again,
stupid.
on the surface, if you don't think about it, I'm sure it's fine. But
Yep.
me, as a person that thinks things through, and again, I have a very, very strong sense of that I need to suspend that disbelief, because again, I love sci-fi stuff. To enjoy half of it, you have to do that, because some of it is just dumb. But I should say the ideas behind it are not necessarily well thought through. So you have to kind of force yourself to like, okay, this is happening because of this. That's my headcanon. That makes sense to me. This, you can't. You can't do that. It's so blatantly wrong that you cannot do it.
Right. You can't. His rules he set in his universe don't make sense.
Correct.
Yeah. And that's why you can do it with sci-fi, because, okay, these are the rules of this time period or this other planet that you can go, okay, these are the rules.
Right.
This is how their world works.
Right.
Got it. Done. Move on. So, speaking of rules that make no sense, why don't you bring us into our last movie here?
Okay. Devil. Devil 2010. Yeah.
Yes, we did skip The Happening for this one. The Happening is going to be next week, which was technically his next movie.
Yes. Okay, so Devil. I'm gonna try to keep the venom out until we get to the end. There's some might sneak in there, but I'm gonna try. Real hard. Okay, so we start off with some narration about somebody talking about their mother always telling them bedtime stories about the devil.
Great bedtime stories, by the way.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what kind of bedtime stories you listen to, but anyway, it's always the devil somehow gets a group of people together, and then kills them. And the way that the devil gets into our world to be able to do this is a suicide has to happen, and then the devil comes into our world, and then he gathers sinners together, the wicked together, and lets that it be watched by an audience of their choosing, and then kills them all for the enjoyment of the audience, I guess, to make a point. I mean, they don't really expand on that, but again, this is the rules of this universe of the devil doing this. This is how it works. So essentially, it opens up where there's a person falling from a large building onto a bread truck. Apparently committing suicide, which is again the first step of this devil narration, right? Then the truck starts rolling down the street, and then we get introduced to a cop detective who's investigating it, and is like, oh, the building that this truck is next to is a 2-story building. It couldn't have jumped from this building, and he uses his detective skills to figure out that, oh, it must have jumped from this other huge tall skyscraper, and then the truck rolled this way. So then he goes
bounce off of barriers that are made to bounce trucks.
Right. Correct.
Yeah.
So that's how he gets to this big high rise. And then while we're in there, we're introduced to 5, right? There's 5 of them.
Yeah.
5 people. So there's 5 people that kind of end up through different happenstances. They all end up on this elevator together. So we'll just kind of go over them now. There's old lady, right? Nice old lady, middle-aged, like whatever, 60-ish.
Yeah.
There's the young woman, Sarah, who is we'll say like, I don't know, 30, mid-30s, lower 30s. But it kind of like a well-to-do lady, right? Obviously got nice clothes and hair done up, blah blah blah. We get kind of like creepy, sleazy salesman guy.
The schnozberries taste like schnozberries.
Yes, who is played by that guy. But yeah, he's like creepy, sleazy salesman dude in like a kind of like a really shitty looking suit.
It doesn't fit.
Right. Yeah, but he comes off like a sleazeball. Like. And then we have a security guard who is needs to get something up from the front desk to, I don't know, somebody upstairs that can't wait.
37th floor.
Yeah.
The second shocker from Spider-Man.
Correct. Yeah, Bokeem Woodbine. He's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, he was. So he was a temp. It's only his second day, but he's going in the elevator to bring this thing up. And then the last guy is kind of rough looking guy.
Mechanic.
Yeah, he's like a mechanic looking guy. That seems kind of like awkward, I guess. Awkward and kind of twitchy.
He's scary to people.
Right. They're like awkward and kind of twitchy, Yeah. So
Yeah.
the kind of person that makes people a little nervous, but not overtly being mean or anything or angry or anything.
Yeah.
So essentially they all get in this elevator. And then they're going up and the elevator stops. This is an express elevator that apparently only starts dropping people off at floor 25, and they are stuck at like floor 21.
Yes, and so they do exist.
Yeah, oh yeah, they do. I mean, yeah, so they there's no doors to open or anything like that. So they're stuck in like the shaft, essentially. So yeah, then we kind of cut to the security room. There's two security guards. We'll just call them old guy and young guy. How about that?
There you go.
Old guy, young guy. So, they're old guys like watching a football game or something. Young guy comes in like, oh, this elevator's in maintenance mode. I wonder what's going on. So he looks at it and you can see the camera into the elevator and like they're clearly stopped and something's going on. So they call Dwight, who's the handyman, which is like, having one handyman for a skyscraper
that's at least 45 levels,
right?
Yeah,
I mean that's ridiculous. I mean you're talking like a hotel that has 3 floors has like 3 or 4 maintenance guys,
and he's working on the window on the 37th floor, and he has to go down to the basement to check the elevator.
Right, it's ridiculous. This is the only maintenance guy they have anyway. So he's like, yeah, that's stuck. So go check it. He's like, okay, I'll go up to the roof and check it. And he looks down. Yep, it's stuck. All right.
I don't see anything wrong with it.
I don't see anything wrong. Like really, you can just by looking like 20 floors down, you can tell. Anyway, so then he goes all the way down into the basement to trip the main breakers. He trips the main breakers. Nothing fixes there. So then he says, oh, I got to go back up to the top again. Yes, I gotta go on a rope down to the elevator, so I gotta do that from the top. And then he like disappears for like I want to say like 20 minutes.
Oh yeah,
it takes him like 20 minutes to get back into the movie. Anyway, so at this point, the detective guy they get a call because sorry. Essentially when they're on the elevator, the lights are flickering on and off because the guy keeps messing with the things, trying to figure out what's going on. When one of these things happens, the well-to-do woman gets like a wound on her back, which looks like a bite wound.
Yeah.
And so they're all like, well, what the hell happened? Like it had to have been a person in this car, right?
Yep.
So they're trying to figure out what's going on. Everybody like kind of immediately goes on the creepy sleazy guy. Because there was like a little scene earlier where like woman was like clearly saying that like she grabbed her ass.
Yep.
Which the angle that we see it from, we can't tell. I mean, his hand was in that general area, but like, we don't know. From the angle we saw it, we don't know. So anyway, so it just seems like this guy's kind of shady. So anyway, so the bite mark happens. Everybody's just kind of blaming this guy, but nobody's really trusting each other at this point in time. So anyway, the stuff is going on now. So they call the police and the detective guy, since he was investigating the suicide, that he led him right to that building. He took the call, which I mean, I don't think detectives take like patrolman calls, but whatever.
No, they don't.
So he goes into this security room to find out what's going on, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this lady got attacked," and they like rewind it to like show it, and of course the lights were off when it happened, so they can't see it. But she was closest to the sleazy guy when it happened, so that everybody kind of assumes that it was him. At this point, the younger security guy sees like a face in the security footage. It is not really a face. I mean, you really have to like stretch to see something there. But he is convinced at this point. He is already thinking that this is the devil. I mean, nothing
Yep.
has even happened yet. He doesn't even know about the suicide. I mean, it's like he just automatically knows that this is what's going on. So after they're trying to figure it out, she's trying to like get him to hold up their IDs to the camera. He can't see them because it's the camera doesn't have good enough quality. They're essentially because they can talk to them in the elevator, but they can't hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
So they can't communicate. They can communicate to them, but they can't get an answer back. So they're trying to hold up the IDs to try to see who these people are. They can't see them. So they're basically going through the sign-in logs and watching the cameras to see if they can figure out who these people are, match them up to their sign-in names. Because they made a point earlier in the movie when everybody had to sign in before they came in.
Correct.
Because like the well-to-do lady tried sneaking past without signing in. But to be fair, she did know the name of one of the other security guards, so I'm sure it kind of seemed like she was just trying to sneak past, but she at least knew the people were. She had been there before.
Right.
Anyway, so at this point, they're looking at the footage. They can't really see it, but they're kind of suspecting the sleazy guy. And they're trying to like get more investigative. Anyway, so then the lights go out again. When they come back up, sleazy guy has a big chunk of the mirror stuck in his neck. Like the mirror in the back of the elevator has been shattered, and one of those big chunks of mirror has been stabbed into his neck. And he's just dead. There's a couple of gurgles, and then he's just dead.
Yeah.
So everybody's like panicking, and they're like, "Oh, who did this?" Right? They're like, "One of us had to have done it. Which one of us did it?" So everybody's like, getting really nervous and trying to figure out what's going on. Essentially, it's kind of down to the security guard and the mechanic twitchy guy, right?
Yeah.
Because nobody's really suspecting the older lady or the younger well-to-do woman at this point. Probably pretty sexist that they don't. But
yeah, and they're discussing. They've never seen the body before. Oh, we have.
Right. Well, yeah. This is when we find out that twitchy guy was in Afghanistan and had seen combat. On the other guy, I believe at this point, the police know that he has a record because he's the only one they know who he is because, again, he works security for the building. So they're very easily able to figure out who he is.
Assault and battery
Yeah,
charges.
they do background check, and he did assault and batteries, and he actually beat someone into a coma and had served time for doing that. So yeah, he's got a history of violent stuff. So the police at this point are kind of sort of suspecting him.
Right.
At this point in time. Anyway, so at this point in time, this is where the maintenance guy finally gets to the roof. And he essentially like sits on a board and then kind of drops himself down with his like rope when he's just sitting on a board.
Yes.
Which I don't think is the best way to do that. Like, I don't know why you would have some kind of harness or something, but anyway, this is what he's doing. So he's trying to go down this shaft, and he's probably about halfway there before the guy's like the older security guy's like freaking out. He keeps calling him on the radio over and over and over and over again. So he finally goes to answer it, and he basically slips off of this rig and falls and dies on top of the elevator. And then there's like blood dripping in. Again, they show that for 1 second, but then they never show it again.
Yes.
So it's odd. I mean, they show that to show that he's dead, I guess. But then they never show it again. And they can hear the walkie-talkie of the guy. So they're pretty sure that guy was dead up there. There's another scene over there, sorry, where we find out that the security guard has claustrophobia. And the one mechanic dude opened up the door in the top of the elevator to make him feel better. Anyway, and he tried to go up there, to get out or to see what was going on, and they all freak out and pull him back down, like, oh, he's trying to escape. He must be the guy that's doing the killing. Of course. So at this point, the lights go out again. When they come back up, the old lady has been hung from the ceiling with like the light cord, like the wire that comes out of one of the lights in the ceiling.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, she's just dead. And so they kind of untie her and let her fall down because they don't want to see her hanging. So they basically just put her next to the sleazy dead guy.
Yep.
And at this point, the three of them are now trying to figure out who is the killer. And essentially, it's kind of like a big testosterone fight between mechanic guy and security guy. But anyway, so at this point, they're looking through the logs. They figure out who the woman is. She is, wife of the guy who like owns the building. And she was essentially going to a lawyer who specializes in forensic accounting to try to find all of his money because she's planning on divorcing him.
Yep.
So at this point, they're like, okay, so someone has a motive to hurt her. Okay. Then now they know about the past of the security guard. Like he's got assaults and batteries, and he's done jail time and stuff on his side. So they know that he's got stuff going on, and then they can't basically figure out that the dude did not sign in. Okay. Everybody else's name they had found on the sign-in sheet. The mechanic dude, they did not find on the sign-in sheet. They did, however, find the old lady on video stealing people's wallets. So she was not innocent either.
Correct.
They found that the sleazy guy essentially was like going to the Better Business Bureau to dispute a claim because he apparently was like the leader of a Ponzi scheme.
Yep.
That got lost a lot of people money. Now, if it really was a Ponzi scheme, he would be in prison. Because Ponzi schemes are illegal. They wouldn't just report him to the Better Business Bureau. He would be in jail. So I don't know if that's just, slander. Like that's not actually what happened, but this is the police saying this is the official thing. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me there, but whatever. So all of the people in there essentially have something going against them. Right?
Liars, killers, cheaters, abusers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So at this point, the police are kind of focusing on the mechanic guy because he didn't sign in at all. And when they see him come in, he clearly has a satchel over his shoulder. And then when he's on the elevator, the satchel is not there. So they're like, okay, like he came in with something and then find out he had to sign in and then he hid whatever this was. So they're searching the bathroom and they find it. It's a bag of tools. And so at this point, they think that he used the tools to sabotage the elevator and that for some reason he has a motive to kill all these people. They don't know what it is, but they're trying to figure out what that is. So yeah, the girl in the elevator is essentially kind of sort of buddying up with the security guard guy because she thinks that the other guy is the killer. She doesn't have the information that the cop have, but I guess she feels more comfortable with the security guard, or the security guard is more enamored with her or something, I guess.
Yeah.
So they're like, they're testosterone back and forth. The cops keep saying like, put your hands on the walls because they're like, they like got into a little tussle. And essentially they're putting their hands on the wall and they're, basically just keep talking back and forth to each other. Anyway, essentially, lights go out again. When they come back up, security guard's neck has been completely snapped.
Yeah, his head's the wrong way. He's facing the wrong way.
Right. Yeah, his neck is snapped and he's totally dead immediately.
Yep.
So at this point, both of them, the mechanic and the girl, both think that each other has done this. Yeah. And so they're like, they kind of like both have pieces of the mirror and they're like facing each other down, right? Like they're going to get into a fight. Now, well, I guess I should have brought this up before, but anyway, in the background, the young guy, the young security guy, he immediately thought the devil was involved because he saw that face. Yep. And then like when the first sleazy guy died, he immediately knows, right, that it's the devil. And like his evidence is he has two pieces of evidence. Now, one piece of evidence is that, hey, have you ever noticed that when babies fall, that babies never hit their heads in the corner of tables? And the other piece of evidence is that, oh, I have this piece of toast with jelly on it. Watch this. And he throws it up in the air and it lands jelly side down on the ground. And he says, well, the worst outcome always happens when the devil is around.
Yep. That's it.
Yeah, and that's
That's all
that's
he
his
needs.
evidence. And so like the older security guy kind of pulls him out of the room like, oh, okay, that's enough. But everybody else seems to be like considering his evidence. So they're trying to figure out all this stuff out. Anyway, so while they're down there, they figure out that the lights are flickering on and off from shorted wire that's underneath the elevator because the obviously the maintenance guy is gone at this point. So the older security guy goes to try to pull this wire out of the water that's shorting out, and of course gets electrocuted. Because again, the younger security guy, of course, keeps adding rules onto this devil situation as they go. The one rule is, of course, when he mentioned in the beginning, his mom never said anything about the audience, but now, of course, he knows all about the audience. He says, all of us have been chosen to watch this for a reason. And then if we try to interfere in what the devil wants to do, the devil is going to kill us for getting involved. Yep. And so that's the excuse as to why the maintenance guy died and the security guy died at this point, because they tried to interfere with the devil's work. Anyway, so we're back to the elevator. So you know the guy and the girl are basically holding mirror knives.
Yeah.
At each other, and they're basically trying to talk each other down. The cops trying to talk them down through the PA system thing. They eventually decide to put their knives down. But then we clearly see that the girl has another knife in her back pocket, which we all know is a lie because women's clothes do not have pockets.
Yeah. That's
anyway, so of course the lights flicker off again, and then when they come back up, she is now stabbed in the neck with the knife that was the mirror knife that was in her back pocket. So of course, the mechanic guy looks up at the camera, kind of going like, "Hey, I didn't do this," but I mean, he's the only one left in the elevator. So she's not quite dead yet. So he's like holding her head, in his lap. And again, this is another thing that doesn't really make sense, is that anyway, back in the office, the younger guy and the cop, they're both entirely convinced that this is exactly what's happening. This is the devil is involved. This is why this is happening. So he's explaining, he's asking him like, so how do we stop this? And he's like, you can't. There's nothing you can do. But anyway, back to the elevator. To where he's kind of cradling the girl's, head in his hands, like trying to, I guess, figure out what's going on. And then we see that the old lady jumps up with black devil eyes, and it was her the whole time.
She's the devil.
She's the devil. And then we find out that because the mechanic guy's girlfriend comes in and tells the police that he was there for a job interview and that his last name was Jankowski. Now, in the sign-in sheet, they thought it said Jane Kowski, so they thought that the old lady's name was Jane Kowski. So if Jan Kowski is now that mechanic dude, then the other person that didn't sign in is this old lady. So that's how they kind of, by process of elimination, figure out that the lady is the devil. So the devil is there basically telling the guy that he's going to die because he's a terrible person. And he essentially kind of figures out that the only way that he's going to get out of this is to kind of fess up to the horrible things that he's done.
Yep.
So he gets because the walkie-talkie has fallen off of the maintenance guy into the elevator car at this point. So he picks up the walkie-talkie and he tells the police that he killed a lady and her son on a highway in the middle of nowhere 5 years ago. And that just happened to be the detective's family.
Yeah.
So that was why he was chosen as the audience, is because this is the guy that killed his family. And basically he doesn't ask for forgiveness. He doesn't think this makes him a better person. He's just doing this because it's the right thing to do, and that somehow diffuses the devil's power. So the devil can't kill him.
Sure.
And then that's it. Now, it's kind of sort of implied that the lady also survives. but not really.
No.
Because
Yeah.
it just kind of ends at that point.
He's taken in by the cop.
He's taken in by the cops. Yeah, but the other thing, but again, like he was doing that whole thing to try to like stop the devil from killing him, but she was still alive at that point. So I don't know if she was supposedly the survivor. I don't know. Maybe that's just hopefulness on my part. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially, so yeah, he gets arrested, and but he doesn't get killed by the devil in the elevator.
And that story goes over saying, "Oh, if you believe the devil exists, then God must also exist," and the cop forgives the guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the cop's driving him back to the thing, and he says, I've, imagined imagine finding the person that did this to me, and imagine what I would say, and now I can just say I forgive you.
Yep.
So nice, Mr. Cop Guy. And yeah, that's it.
End the movie.
Now, how good of a job did I do just there? Right? There's very little venom in that.
Correct. We'll get to the venom.
Yeah, we'll get there. I'm just saying, I tried to be good.
Now, this wasn't your first time seeing this because we've discussed this.
Yeah,
multiple times.
I've discussed this movie. Whenever I'm talking about M. Night Shyamalan, it's like these three movies are the ones that I always talk about as being the biggest leaps in logic, and they get worse as they go along. Signs, The Village, and Devil. Well, really just The Signs and The Village, and The Devil is literally I took a break. When did The Village come out?
2006.
Yeah. So I watched the Village, and then I waited a few years. I mean, I didn't watch Devil when it came out. This was the next movie of his that I watched after that.
You didn't watch The Happening in between?
No.
Okay.
No, not at this point. I mean, I did watch The Happening, but it was later.
Yeah.
I watched it. Why did I watch it? Oh, I think is Lizzie Kaplan in it?
Yes.
Yeah, I watched it because I was watching all of Lizzie Kaplan's movies, so I ended up watching it.
That's fair.
Yeah. So yeah, essentially, and this one is just I was like, okay, well, I've heard kind of sort of good things about this movie. Let me see. And watching it, I was like, okay, it's not too bad. This is pretty interesting. But then yeah, I think when it gets to the point of the toast flip. That's what I'm just like, okay, I'm done. I'm done with this. I did finish the movie. I was just like, at that point, I would just hate watching it.
Yeah, this is my first time watching it. I said we discussed this many, many, many times. M. Night Shyamalan. Even very recently when you came over last, we discussed this part of this movie.
Right.
I watched it. The wife watched with me. She goes, "What you think?" I'm like, "What the hell did I just watch?" I'm like, I love bad movies. I don't deny that. I go, I can't believe I wasted my time on this.
Right.
Like to me, it was that bad, and this prompted, as we discuss, a potential future topic for the podcast of good religious toned horror movies that they do exist. This was awful.
Yeah.
This really was.
Right.
And yeah, one piece of toast flipping over, landing on jelly is not proof to anything.
Well, and again, but what's with the story about the babies not hitting their head on a table? What are you talking about?
It happens a lot.
I know. I was like, I've seen children's head hit tables. What are you talking about? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, it sounds like one person's like anecdote of like, oh, I've never seen a child's head hit the corner of a table. Sorry to tell you, dude, it happens all the time.
Yes, it does.
Children are clumsy.
I had 3. This is why if that didn't happen, there'd be no such thing as baby proof in your house.
Right.
And I did it for years.
Well, and again, that's why you have skulls.
Yeah.
Know what I mean? That's what, like, we have a skull to, like, if we fall and hit our head on a table, like, yeah, it hurts, but it's not going to destroy your brain. That's the whole point of a skull.
Yes.
But yeah,
they're logical leaps there.
That was the explanation. And then everybody after this point, again, the older security guy doesn't really believe him. He's like, okay, let's get you out of here. But after he dies, everybody's just on board with this. Everybody's just like, yep, it's a devil.
Yeah. Are there any highlights for you in this movie?
There was one actually. the android from Dark Matter is the mechanic's girlfriend.
Okay.
I was like, oh, because again, the first when I watched this last was obviously before Dark Matter. So I watched it and I was like, I knew I saw her somewhere before. Because like I saw her and I looked at everything she was in. I'm like, I don't never watched any of these shows. I guess I never looked at the movies that she was in. But yeah, no, so she was she was in this. And of course the Schnozberries guy, like everybody knows
of course.
who he is.
The wife goes, he looks familiar, like, well, the Schnozberries taste like Schnozberries.
Right.
You just start licking the glass and you know exactly who it is.
Yeah. So
yes, I like him.
Right. But yeah, he's unfortunately not in it for very long.
No. Low points besides the twist and the plot that we'll get to. Low point for me, okay? I'm going to throw this out there and see what you think. The old guy gets electrocuted, right?
Uh-huh.
Underneath the elevators.
Right.
Somehow gets out of there and goes into the lobby of the building after being electrocuted.
Yeah, crawls in there. Like, okay, if you actually got electrocuted to death, you would not be moving anywhere. Because that's the whole thing about electricity is it grabs you and you get stuck there. And that's why you die, because the electricity continually flows through your body and you can't do anything to stop it.
It spasms your muscles. You cannot let go.
Right. Yeah, literally. Like somebody has to like hit you off with a board or something to get you to stop being electrocuted.
Yes. Yep. I'm just going, how the hell did that happen?
Well, that's the devil.
Sure. Let's go with that. I'm just going, okay, this is like even dumber because like that's not how it works.
Right. But it's like, okay, like the thing is like everybody, like this guy's talking about this devil story as if like everybody knows this story. Like no one's ever heard of this. This is
this bedtime story.
Up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's completely made up. It doesn't make any sense. Like he's talking about it like, oh, this is a pattern that happens all the time. Like, is it?
No.
Like, no. I've never heard of it. But anyway, this dude is sold from like day one. I mean, like he never even attempts to find any other explanation. Is like, as soon as he sees that face, and that's before anybody even dies, he's like, devil's here.
Yep.
And then again, his two things of evidence is, oh, you ever notice that babies, when they fall, don't hit their heads on the corner of tables? That was one piece of evidence. And the second piece of it is he flips his toast up in the air and it lands jelly side down only once. He doesn't repeat this experiment. He only does it one time. And then he is completely convinced. And everybody else in the room that's not the older security guy is like, huh, he's got a point.
Yep.
You know, and then like the detective guy who is like, you know, introduced as a skeptic is then on board after that.
Yep. Yeah, that. I mean, do we go more into the twist? More of a rant here.
Sure.
I'm sure you got more of a rant. Yeah.
I mean, there's so much. I mean, this one is just this is a movie that essentially, if you are a religious person, this movie probably makes complete sense to you, right? If you are a religious person from like any other religion that's not a Christian religion that believes in the devil, there's huge logic leaps in this movie, and you're like, why are you jumping immediately to that? Like we said, the guy's like, oh, devil's here, and everybody's like, yep, devil's here. I mean, that's it. I mean, everybody's just totally on board from that. I mean, watching it as a non-religious person, it doesn't make sense. You know, like everybody's immediately throwing logic out the window and just thinking this is a supernatural occurrence. And again, it's just so far beyond it. Again, and even if you're any other religion besides the Christian religion, it probably doesn't make sense to you, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Because all these other religions don't have the devil, you know, is literally being a physical presence.
Here's the thing. It even in a lot of other stuff, there's layers of devil, demons, stuff like that. In other worlds, the devil wouldn't be doing this particular thing. It'd be sending a demon out to do it. Demon, sure. Devil, no. Why not? Right.
And again, like you mentioned before, there are other movies that do this well. And again, you know, as a non-religious person watching them, I have no problem with it being in there, as long as it just has to be done well. Like, again, we talk about Constantine. It literally, he goes to hell. Like the devil is a physical presence in that world, good movie,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
You got like Legion, which is literally about like angels
Love
fighting.
Legion.
Right, but it's a heavily religious movie, right? Like God and the devil have to exist for this angel fight to happen, right? Good movie. You got The Prophecy, which is again a bunch of angels, right?
Yep.
You know, like I don't know, in order for those angels to be there, God and the devil have to exist. I mean, and these things are, you know, they present them to you as if, you know, these things are real and they exist, but it's done well, and it, you know, and it's good. It's just a fun watch. There's plenty of other movies. These are just 3 examples.
Hellraiser,
right.
Demons, yeah,
right, yeah. I mean, these are things that clearly say religion is real in these worlds.
Yeah, I don't think we have any bias against. This is the point. Is we don't have any bias against religious movies, regardless of what we believe.
No, not at all. I mean, I can objectively watch something, and if it's good, it's great. It doesn't matter if it's religious or not. If it has religious content, I don't care. Do I get upset or like, oh, I hate this movie because it insists that there's a God? No, not at all.
No.
Again, I just mentioned 3 movies that explicitly tell you that God and the devil are real, and they're good. I have no problem with that. I'm just saying this movie is very, very heavy-handed in how it says things. And again, it just makes assumptions that everyone watching this is immediately going to be on board that the devil is the reason why all this is happening.
Yeah.
And again, until the end when the old lady pops up, it's all just conjecture.
Yep.
And then when the old lady pops up, it's like, oh, okay, that's what's going on. But everyone in this movie is already convinced that the devil is there before she even pops up.
Right.
And again,
and that's the thing. Like, honestly, they could have just made this a Hellraiser movie. As we discussed
it would fit better than half the Hellraiser movies do.
Right. We are very analytical. We think logically in a lot of what we do because of our jobs, and we do that in this podcast too, right? We can adhere to the rules that exist fairly well in movies or that are set up. But yeah, the logical leaps, the plot holes that have to get made, like they don't have a good way, especially in this movie, to get to that point. Like, well, how do we prove it's the devil? Toast. What about toast? Jelly upside down. Why? I don't know. This is the worst thing that could possibly happen. The worst thing possibly happen is the toast falls, you slip on and bang your head into a wall. That's worse than your jelly going on carpet.
Right. But it's bizarre to me. Like, they only do the jelly experiment one time, and his only other evidence is like some weird story he's telling about babies and their heads not hitting tables.
So stupid.
I'm like, what are you talking about?
It was clearly written by someone that's never seen a small child.
I know. I'm like
running around the house.
I'm like, I'm pretty sure like Shyamalan's got kids. Like he should. I mean, maybe he was amazed that his kids didn't hit their heads more. Maybe that's what he's talking about. I honestly don't know. I honestly could not tell you what the point of this was.
I don't know. I'm glad. I wish I didn't see this movie.
But yeah, it's good up to the point where he flips the toast. Up to that point, it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, the devil may be here, the devil may not be, right? There's always, in those movies, there's always like one person who absolutely believes no matter what, right? But, nobody else believes them until they see it with their own eyes. And there's nothing in this movie that they can see with their own eyes until that lady gets up. But by that point, they're already convinced.
Yep. Yeah. So, what is your scale? What is your rating on this? Out of 10.
I don't. Let's see. I mean, until it gets to the toast flipping part, it is a fairly interesting movie. Because, I mean, I think the thing that mostly upsets me is that it follows one of my favorite plot lines, which is when, like, a bunch of strangers get trapped in something.
Yeah.
And they have to figure out why they're there and what's going on. Again, I think, we talk like, the whole 6 strangers in search of an exit type storyline. And it pretty much follows that. It pretty much follows that. I mean, there's a lot of outside influence and stuff, but it pretty much follows that. And that's why I was like, initially, I'm like, ooh, this might be good. And I'm enjoying it. And again, until the toast flipping part, I did enjoy it. But after that part, I got just so angry at just the stupidity and just the logical leaps that it takes, that it really just sours the whole rest of it. So I'm really trying to decide if I don't like it more than The Village or not.
I I can tell you for certain I hated this movie a hell of a lot more than The Village.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm gonna say it's a 2. It's gonna be a 2 out of 10, simply because I do dislike it, but for different reasons. So it's for a 2 for different reasons, but I'd say I dislike them both equally.
It's I'm going all the way down to a 2 for this, just because. Yeah.
Again, there's up until the toe slipping part, it is decent. Like it's pretty fun, right? I'm
Yep.
liking it up until that point, and then it gets very stupid and heavy handed, and I don't like it anymore. And it sours all the good stuff that happened up until that point. But I will give it a little bit.
Okay. So that being said, we're continuing this next week, where we're going to go see this newest movie, Knock at the Cabin, and we'll be discussing some potentially better movies. One definitely not as good with that, right?
Well, yeah. I'm gonna again. I've only seen The Happening once, so I'm going to watch it again through the lens of what I think it should be. I don't know. We'll see how it is the second time around.
Yeah. So stay tuned. Where we continue on, we're calling the horror side of M. Night Shyamalan. Maybe we'll get to the superhero trilogy at some point in time. But yeah, we'll be discussing Old, The Visit, The Happening, and I said Knock at the Cabin. And our rants will probably continue in those as well.
Well, I have at least one. I mean, Old I have not seen. The Visit I did see, and it was actually pretty good. I did like that one. But The Happening, yeah, there's a lot to complain about there.
Yes. So until then, why don't you take us out?
Sure. This is
All right.
Salem saying, "Long live the new flesh."
And this is Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children? Good night.
Good night.